Okay, our executive session is now complete. We will now reconvene our special meeting to adjourn our executive session. The special meeting is called back to order. Will the secretary please note that all board members are present and we are participating via video conference. The first item on the agenda is item 3B, motion to adjourn our executive session. Is there a motion to adjourn the executive session?
There's a motion. Second.
Right. A motion was made by Member Ross and seconded by Councilwoman Pastor. On the motion, those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed indicate by saying nay. The motion carries. The next item is item 3C. Actually, that's it. Next item is item 3D, motion to adjourn the special meeting. Is there a motion to adjourn the special meeting?
So move.
A motion was made by Councilwoman Pastor and seconded by Member Prescott. On the motion, those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed indicate by saying nay. The motion carries. We are adjourned. The regular meeting is now called to order. Governing board, tonight we are going to do roll call as we've done the last few months. I will call you by name. Each of you will have an opportunity to present and also please to say that you are present. Also, please feel free to give an opening remark and welcome our community to the board meeting. I'll go in alphabetical order and start with Senator Alston.
Thank you. It's a pleasure, as always, to be here at our board meeting tonight. It's a little sad for me because it is our Ian Danley's last board meeting, and he has been a wonderful board member and a wonderful friend. I treasure that friendship, and I am grateful for the way that he has participated and made things happen for the better for our families in Phoenix Union and for our students. So, Ian, thank you so much. And we're going to miss you terribly. And that's really all I have to say tonight, except as always, a thank you to all of our staff for supporting our families, for supporting our students, for being good community members. We have done it well, and it's because of our employees. So to each and every one of you, and that includes our admin team as well, thank you for so much for your leadership, not just in Phoenix Union, but I'm told frequently how other school districts look to us for our leadership and guidance, and they are very appreciative of that and notice it. And so to each of you, thank you for your contribution, and I love you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Member Danley.
Thank you, President Para. Yeah, I think I'll probably say a few words a little bit later. I am quite sad and emotional today. It's been a wonderful 8 years, and I'm so proud to have been associated with this district. And if I have a minute a little bit later, I'll maybe speak to that.
Thank you, Member Danley. Supervisor Gallardo.
Thank you, Madam President. And I'll wait to hear from Mr. Danley later on when he gives his goodbye speech. If he starts crying, we'll all give him a big Zoom hug, I guess. But no, he's a great individual. I think everyone on the board knows him even prior to his Phoenix Union tenure, and we know where his heart is. He has always been an advocate for our community. He's always been on the front lines fighting for justice and what's right, and really fighting for those that just does not have a voice. They've just been folks that have lived in the shadows and have been ignored for so long, and Ian has just stepped up to be that voice for many of our families. I do want to real quickly just thank everyone again, everyone involved in the Phoenix Union family. This is the last board meeting of the year. It's been a rough year. 2020 is going down as probably the most difficult year probably any of us have had to deal with. It has been hard, not only professionally, but personally to everyone. Our families have struggled, if not socially and economically. They have challenged in terms of even trying to just keep up with their schoolwork or helping their child get through a day-to-day learning experience, and let it be a high school level or elementary. I work real closely with the elementary school districts as well, and seeing similar struggles. So it's been a tough year, but there is light at the end of the tunnel. We're seeing it now. So that's always something to look forward to. We're right in the middle of the holidays. I don't know. I'm hoping everyone had a restful and safe Thanksgiving. I would imagine many of our Thanksgiving celebrations or dinners were similar to what we had in the Gallardo household, where it was a lot different than what we've done in the past, and we couldn't all be together. And unfortunately, the holidays are probably going to be similar to Thanksgiving, but nonetheless, like I said, there's light at the end of the tunnel. We're all in this together, and we'll get through this. I look forward to next year, 2021 year, where we'll come back stronger than ever before, and we'll be able to do what Phoenix Union does best, and that provides services not only to our families, but just top-notch education experience for all our students. So thank you, Madam President. And if I don't have an opportunity, Ian, my man, thank you so much for what you've done for Phoenix Union. Thank you so much. And happy holidays to everyone, if I don't get an opportunity to say it by the end of the board meeting. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Supervisor. Councilwoman Pastor.
I just want to thank Ian for giving a voice to the voiceless. That has always been what you have done, and really appreciate a lot of your mentorship and leadership on not only on the board, but throughout the valley and throughout the state, because you are part of making sure that our young youth are active and learning to vote and being part of the voting system or democracy. So really appreciate that work that you have done. Want to thank all the staff, everybody. That includes everybody from opening up the schools all the way to superintendent. You have done an amazing job. I hear it every time with other school districts as to what did you do and how did Phoenix Union do that? And what I said, it was due to everyone's leadership in making sure that we help our community and make sure that students are getting their education and families are involved and understanding what it means to learn on a virtual platform. I will give a shout out. I know I may be being biased, but I will give a shout out to Wilson Academy since my son is attending there, and understand the struggles that students are having in this virtual environment and how they have really helped him mentor and push him along to do what he needs to do and motivate him to turn on that computer sometimes and just engage. And I want to thank all the staff and faculty there because I know what Wilson Academy staff and faculty is doing for my son. Everyone across the district is doing it for their student. And so I feel like what I am learning and feeling as a parent is happening in every school. So I do appreciate, and I'm very grateful for all your hard work. So I am going to say Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, and have a happy holidays. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Councilwoman. Member Prescott.
Good evening, everybody. I'm going to echo everyone else. Ian, it's been a pleasure to work with you these past few years, and even before that. You have left a real mark on the district by bringing in those issues, whether that be restorative justice or the coding academy. The district is fundamentally different because of your leadership, and it's also created a space for folks like myself to work with those issues and keep pushing those issues forward. So I really appreciate it, and thank you for being on the board this time. And as others have said, happy holidays to everybody.
Thank you so much, Member Prescott. And Member Ross.
Hi, everyone. Ian, thank you for modeling good board member duties for me. There are times where I've been nervous about speaking up, and you've shown me how to do it and given me more courage to do so. So thank you for being a good role model on the board. You will be missed. I've known you for a shorter period than the rest of the board, but in that short time, I've been thoroughly impressed by your dedication and your passion. So thank you, Ian, for your time, and happy holidays, everyone.
Thank you so much, Member Ross. And with that, will the secretary please note that all of our board members are present and joining us via video conference. Members, at this time, we ask that you mute your computer microphone to prevent background noise. And certainly I will let you know when we will be taking an action item so that you can unmute. And for our public, please note that in order to comply with CDC guidelines on social distancing due to COVID-19, our regular board meeting tonight is being live streamed. The doors of the governing board room are open, but we are present joining via video conference, and the public is not physically permitted to join. First item, our Pledge of Allegiance. Can we please stand as Councilwoman Pastor leads us in a Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing for a moment of silence?
Okay, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic of which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. The first item on the agenda is item 1D, approval of the minutes of the governing board retreat held on October 23rd, the special meeting, our executive session, and the regular meeting held on November 5th. Board members, this is an action item. We will be taking a vote. If you can please unmute. Is there a motion to approve the minutes as presented?
A motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
A motion has been made by Member Ross and seconded by Councilwoman Pastor. Is there any discussion? On the motion, those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Those opposed indicate by saying nay. The motion carries. Board members, at this time, you can mute your microphones again. The next item on our agenda is item 2A, recognitions and accomplishments. Dr. Gaston.
President Para and members of the board and broader Phoenix Union community. Tonight, we, for our recognitions and accomplishments, decided that it was the most appropriate thing to do to spend our time recognizing and honoring the work of board member Ian Danley. Mr. Danley, as you have heard tonight, it is his final board meeting in Phoenix Union after 8 years. And I'll say a couple more words here in a moment, but tonight, to kick off this portion, we will begin with a video to commemorate Mr. Danley's time on the board.
Hi, Ann. We're really, really, really going to miss you. It's been an honor and a pleasure to have you on the board, and I will always, always treasure our friendship. I love you, my friend, but I'll miss you terribly. Thank you and good luck.
Hello, Mr. Danley. I just wanted to quickly thank you for all of your years of dedication, advocacy, and service for the students and the community of Phoenix Union. You will always be a family of PXU, and I wish you all the best in the future.
I just wanted to let you know how much of a pleasure it has been to serve with you these past few years. You know, I just really respect and admire your passion for Phoenix Union, your love for the kids, and just your great knowledge that you've shared with us. You know, I absolutely wish you the best in life, and I know that we'll be talking to each other and keeping in touch. But thank you so much. It's just been such an honor.
I just want to say goodbye and thank you, Mr. Danley, for your years of service on the board. You are passionate, dedicated, and committed, and you have made Phoenix Union a better place. So for that, thank you. I have thoroughly enjoyed working with you and getting to know you, and I wish you all the luck in the future. Take care.
Ian, it has been such a privilege working with you over these past years. Thanks so much for your leadership and for your support. I'll definitely miss you. Good luck in your new adventures.
Ian, quiero decir gracias por sus servicios y para su amistad. También tú eres parte de nuestra comunidad. Adiós te bendiga y chao, mi amigo.
You have brought to this role such love and compassion and dedication and courage, all so that you can make sure that our students and our families and our community have all the opportunities that they deserve, that they are cared for, that the barriers are removed for them, that they are uplifted to achieve their highest goals. And for that, I have the highest level of respect for you. I am grateful for the time that I have been able to work with you these past years. You are going to be dearly, dearly missed. But I know enough to know that you will just be transitioning how you support Phoenix Union because it's in your blood. It's who you are.
Just wanted to take this time to sincerely thank you for your unwavering support, not only as a member of the Phoenix Union community, but also as an active member of the Phoenix Union's governing board. Your commitment to our students, our parents, our teachers, and support staff is second to none. Because of your love, support, but most importantly, because of your vision, Phoenix Union has become the premier district of the nation. Sir, I wish you all the best.
Hi, Mr. Danley. I wanted to take a minute and say thank you so much for your service as a member of the Phoenix Union High School District Governing Board. Your passion and advocacy for our students and our community are one of the things that we'll remember most about working with you. I wish you well on all of your future endeavors. Again, thank you so much and take care.
Ian, I want to thank you so much for your service and your commitment to Phoenix Union students and families. You were one of the leaders who first encouraged me and inspired me to run for the school board here. You certainly believe deeply in our community and have been incredibly focused on advancing justice and creating opportunity for our families. And I'm so grateful for your leadership and partnership over the last 6 years. And thank you for everything that you have done in your time here on the board in your 8 years of service. So thank you for all your work, Ian. We will miss you deeply on the board, but know that you will definitely be present and involved and stay connected in our community. Well wishes to you and to the familia. Love you, hermano.
Mr. Ian Danley, it has been an absolute pleasure and an honor serving Phoenix Union with you. You're a man of great integrity. I love your heart. I love your commitment. I love your service to our community. You're a peacemaker. You're a lover. You spread goodness and hope in our community. Our world could use more Ian Danleys. Thank you so much for all that you have done for our staff, our students, and our community. You'll be missed, but please don't go far. All right, Mr. Ian Danley, as the video said, we cannot thank you enough, and I personally cannot thank you enough for all that you have done for our community. As you heard, you are loved, you are respected. We honor your years of service. We also thank your beautiful wife, Shiloh, and your children, your beautiful children, Tyler and Peyton, and your entire family for giving you to us, to our staff, to our students in our community for the last 8 years. We love you tremendously and would be honored if you would spend a few minutes sharing your thoughts with us tonight. With that, I will turn it over to you, Mr. Danley.
Oh man, that was so sweet. They're all downstairs watching it, and they're going to be so proud of me. I'm so grateful for that. You have no idea how much that meant to me, and all your kind words. That really was so many great memories. Some of those photos just bring you back to all the conversations and planning and dreaming and scheming that was going on to make all of that stuff happen, and all those graduations. Oh my gosh, I'm gonna miss graduations so much, and how fun those always were. My doctors were always like, "You're crazy! You just finished chemo, and now you're just gonna shake 5,000 students' hands." But I didn't want to miss it, because graduations are always such a moment of celebration. I got a couple thoughts here. 8 years goes fast. Hey, bud, I'm going to say a couple things. You want to be with me? Or you can watch downstairs? Hey, go nutty. 8 years, it's amazing how fast it goes. But you see, that slideshow really reminded me of how much we've accomplished. And like I said at the top of the meeting, how proud I am to be connected at any level with the district. I'm a product of the district, and I've always loved North High School and what it meant in my life and the ways that it invested in me, and people like Paul Lowe's and Marilyn Bueller and Sue Ellen Braz and Dan Dodge and all these humans that are part of my life and have formed me into the person that I am, that were working at Phoenix Union. And taking care of me and our community. And I was so excited to be a part of doing that in my way, with the district with my adult life. And my children, who you're seeing behind me, will go to Phoenix Union schools. That's a guarantee. And when we drive by coding, I say, we did that for you, if that's the school you pick. And I'm so proud of our district, beyond me, but these last 8 years in particular, I do believe that we are a premier urban district in the country, and that is the North Star that we chase. And we are not defensive in posture, but we know we are innovative and nimble, and we are courageous, and we are fundamental. This community does not look and succeed and thrive the way it does without Phoenix Union. And we know that, and we believe that. And our detractors and our opponents who exist, and we must be clear-eyed about that. There are people in our community, powerful people, who do not believe in us. And they believe we're doomed to fail because of some ideology or whatever, baggage, misinformation, whatever those reasons are. But we don't listen to them. We don't believe them. We don't engage, because we aren't defensive, because we know we are fundamental in this community. We must exist. We must thrive. And we know our value. And out of that comes all of the courage and innovation and ability to improve even more. And we must fight to defend ourselves. We have to. This isn't an environment where public schools, in particular urban public schools, can stay stagnant. We must move and identify opponents and challenges and risks and opportunities to do things that nobody's ever done before. And that is the mission of this district, and that will continue to be who we are and our identity. Nobody does better with our student population in our community than we do. Nobody at scale. And that must be well known, that must be communicated, and that must be deep, deep in our hearts as we confirm for ourselves what it is exactly we are doing, and the fact that nobody else has figured out how to do it with our students at this level. And without us, this city and this state would be in big, big trouble. And that doesn't give us an arrogance, but it gives us a confidence. And it pushes us forward into the new things and into the new seasons and into hard seasons like we're probably facing in the next year, maybe two. And those, we must be grounded in that and confident in who we are. The truth is people don't know exactly who we are. And we've done a lot of work that I'm very proud of communicating who Phoenix Union is and what we value and what we stand for and how successful we are. But we must continue that work as well, as we say, in the face of criticism, in the face of an anti-public school environment. This place is precious and important, and it must be protected. I would say to the board that it was so fun to see those old board photos with Amy and Ricardo, and those were fun photos. But I love this new iteration of the board. I think, before my time, we had baggage. We had been a more, kind of traditionally political, noisy, urban school board that created problems, didn't solve problems, and was a focus of attention, not a solid, quiet body in the background, which I believe is preferable. And many of you and others helped address that issue. And a new generation, which I think I, at some level, have represented with others, like Stephanie and Stanford, a new group of leaders coming in the wake of that conflict. But we haven't been there now for a long time. And so now we have a legacy that we're building of stability, of unity, of new ideas. The board has been a place of ideas, which I think is good and healthy, but also of values. I think this has been a very values-based board where we're not in the weeds in the day-to-day, and that's good. But we are a place that says, this is what our community values. These are the things that we care about. We care about working people. And our associations are going to be precious to us because they help defend and protect working people. And so there's no such thing as poverty wages at Phoenix Union, and there's no such thing as exploitation at Phoenix Union because we care about working. This is a working community. And so anybody employed here will be taken care of. That's a value. We have a value of every student, no matter who. If they're undocumented, if they're LGBTQ, if they're whatever class, they are ours if they walk through our doors, and they will be taken care of. That's a value. We don't push out anybody. If they're tough, if they're knuckleheads, we figure it out. That's a value we bring to the board. Leadership development. Some of you mentioned, and I was so honored by your comments at the top of the call because I respect all of you so much, and serving alongside you has been a privilege of my life. But we don't always love every time the way students or staff or others engage, but we create those opportunities because we believe in leadership. We believe that our young people and our students are leaders. We believe that our staff and our employees at all levels are leaders. We believe that our community and our parents, when they participate, are leaders. We believe in leadership development. It's a deeply held value here. And that strengthens us. And we know that even if it gets bumpy and we aren't always aligned on every issue, we create those spaces. We allow for folks to take ownership of this district and of our schools and of our systems because that leadership is important to us. And we also believe in being unified, I think, as a board, and have for a long time. And so when we do and have had conflicts, that doesn't tear apart our unity, our fundamental objectives and goals, because we are so aligned. We are so aligned on this school board, and we have been really all 8 years in all of our various iterations. We agree on so much, almost everything. And because it's all values-based. And our admin team is right there with us. And so I just think, I want to dare say that I'm leaving it a little better than I found it, which is hopefully true. And I'm so proud of the things we've accomplished together, and that I got to be a part of it. It was a privilege, and I was honored to serve in this way. I deeply, deeply care about all of you as people and as individuals, but also this institution and what it means in my life and what it means in our community is so important to me. I'm not going anywhere. I'm still right here in the neighborhood. So I'm excited to figure out how I can support Phoenix Union in a new way. I'm excited about Aaron Marquez. I think he's watching. He's an amazing guy. You're going to love him if you haven't met him yet. He's a servant leader too. And I think he's going to put his shoulder to the boulder with the rest of us and help with his efforts. He's a dad and they're an education family. And so I think he's going to step right in and be a wonderful member on the team, and I'm excited about that. I will miss you all terribly, and I'm feeling that right now in a way I wasn't quite expecting. But Dr. Gessen, just to say to you, I think your leadership has been profound and fundamental. I'm eager to see your next steps and vision here into the future. I think the district is in for some very, very strong future years, despite some of the obstacles facing us. The core components are all in place and are really, really healthy. And so I'll just say a deep, deep thank you, and a gratitude is really what I'm feeling right now. That I got to be a part of this for 8 years, and I'm so proud of what we've accomplished together. So thanks for giving me some time.
Thank you so much, Board Member Danley. I think that if the community hadn't, because now that we're virtual, we have a bigger audience. If the community hadn't had a chance to hear you speak and get a sense for your heart and your values, that was a great example of who you are. And so thank you again so much, Mr. Danley, for your years of service. And I will turn it back over to President Para.
Thank you, Dr. Geston and Member Danley. Certainly, I think all of us, I don't want to say too much because I'm already crying after that video. That was such a powerful, moving video, just to demonstrate like the years of service that you committed to Phoenix Union, but your passion and your commitment for the community, your belief in our community. It's inspiring, and I'm grateful for the time and the dedication and commitment that you made to Phoenix Union. And absolutely no, it will continue to influence us and to contribute to the success of the district in a different way, but absolutely you'll continue to be a part of it. So thank you so much from the bottom of my heart, and I will stop there before I continue to cry. Members, the next item on the agenda is item 3A, reports from student government. Dr. Geston.
All right, President Para and members of the board and community, as we have done this year, we are bringing multiple schools and students to you tonight to report. We're very excited to have 3 students from Alhambra, Central, and Maryvale. We'll introduce them in a moment. But also wanted to take a moment, we have amazing students. We also have amazing staff. And the reason why we can bring to you student government reports every month is because We have phenomenal student government teachers and leaders all across our system. And the one who takes the lead on getting students tonight is Mr. Sal Lopez. And I believe we have a picture that will show you. Mr. Lopez is not joining us tonight because he just had a baby. Well, his wife had a baby, and they are celebrating their second child. And I thought it was just important because we don't really get to meet everybody behind the scenes, but I wanted to highlight Mr. Sal Lopez really quickly, partially because he's a graduate of Phoenix Union. He graduated from North High School in 2001. He was student body treasurer and has served on executive board and even played soccer when he was in high school while he was in Phoenix Union. He's an ASU grad. He did a student teaching at Cesar Chavez High School, was an English teacher, and is now completing his 14th year in Phoenix Union. Did Stugo at Chavez since 2007, and he's now been the head liaison to Phoenix Union Stugo since 2015. So if you're watching, Mr. Lopez, thank you so much for your service and congratulations on a new beautiful child. And so with that, Governing Board, we have 3 representatives tonight that will be presenting. Tonight we have Mr. Brandon Chavarria Cuevas from Alhambra High School, Brianna Mejia from Central High School, and we have Tania Ramos Lopez from Maryville. Students, I will call on you one at a time, and at the very end, we may turn your cameras on to say hello. But tonight, would first like to welcome Brandon Chavarria Cuevas to speak. Brandon, go for it.
Hello, everyone. My name is Brandon Chavarria, and I am the student body president of Alhambra High School for the 2020-2021 school year. First of all, I want to take a moment to thank the governing board for giving us the time for us to share our successes, activities, and opportunities that we're able to offer to students on our campuses. So for the presentation, so again, as I said, I'm from Alhambra High School, and some of the new things that we've been able to do during the whole coronavirus situation is we've been able to host Virtual Spirit Week. So this will be our second Virtual Spirit Week that we're having. And so it is our Winter Spirit Week. And so every single day we have a different theme that students can dress up as. And every day we also have different activities that the students can participate in. And so if we want to go on to the next slide, we can see that on Friday, we'll conclude the Spirit Week with our virtual assembly. So this will also be our second virtual assembly, which will include pre-recorded video performances from choir, dance, JROTC. We will also be including highlights from our senior athletes from our fall and winter season. And we'll also be having highlights from our staff. But not only that, we'll also be having videos from every single one of our class of clubs. So we will be having videos from our freshmen, our sophomores, our juniors, and our seniors. And if we want to go to the next slide, we can see that another activity that Alhambra has been trying to develop for the past couple of weeks has been the toy drive. And so since we're not able to do a lot of activities in person, and we feel like online activities get old after a while for students, we felt like something like this might be fun, to give back to our community. And so we're having a crate where anybody can bring, different toys, and we will be donating them to a hospital, to the Phoenix Children's Hospital. So I actually believe other student governments are coming to donate to our crate as well. So that should be fun. And then the last slide we have is connected to the Pride. So this is the hashtag that Alhambra has been trying to use throughout the entire year to try and stay connected in our virtual network. And so every single time that we post Friday Spirit Days, we try and use this hashtag. And so Alhambra High School, the administration Instagram can view it, and then they can repost it. And so this is another way that we stay connected through these hardships of the year. So that is all I have on my part. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Brandon. We really appreciate it. Now I am excited to ask our next member to come, Brianna Mejia from Central High School.
Good evening, President Prada, Governing Board, and Dr. Gustin. My name is Brianna Mejia, and I am the Student Body President of Central High School for the 2020-2021 school year. Just want to thank the Governing Board for giving us this time to report and the successes and activities and opportunities for us. So yeah. So to start off is our robotics club, the Robot Cats, who are actually preparing for a competition that will take place January 22nd to the 28th, February 12th to the 18th, and February 26th through March 4th of 2021. They will be having a half field setup in room 822 where their lab is set up, and record their match and to submit it. These are just pictures of the club members designing and making the robot, and yeah, and exciting. Next is our HOSA club, which is also our sports medicine class, who are also doing a toy drive for children who are victims of abuse. So this is actually a snapshot of what the HOSA members are assigned to do. So basically, each member of HOSA will be making a video with a cape representing heroes, and they are survivors. They'll be holding a drive-by donation through the office where anyone can bring and donate toys that represent heroes. These toys will then be given to those children for Christmas. Next slide, please. And then lastly is our marketing class, who have recently purchased a t-shirt press and sticker maker. Our marketing teacher is really big on like partnerships, and this is actually a great opportunity for clubs and teams to fundraise and promote like school sports and events, and just it also brings like school spirit onto our campus. Also, our marketing teacher is also like fairly new, and he's really big on like rebranding the marketing class, and we have definitely seen that happen this past year. So these purchases will obviously boost that rebranding. That's also it for me. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, Brianna. We appreciate it. And our final Stugo presentation of the night is Ms. Tanya Ramos Lopez from Maryvale High School. Go for it, Tanya.
Good evening, President Parra, governing board members, and Dr. Guestin. My name is Tanya Ramos, and I am the student body president at Maryvale High School for the 2020-2021 school year. At this time, I want to thank the governing board for giving us the time to directly report about the successes, activities, downfalls, and opportunities that are afforded to the students of my school. Next slide, please. So to start off with, one of the most important ways and things that we have been doing at Maryvale High School has been Spirit Week. And so far we've had two. One of them most successful, the one on the left, which is fall themed. And we have one upcoming this next week, which will be holiday winter themed. Next. So this year, homecoming was virtual because of COVID, and we had royalty nominations plus crowning, and this was during the week of November 9th through the 20th, which also fell right with Spirit Week. And it was quite successful. Next slide, please. Thank you. So November, we had a thankfulness calendar. We felt like November was just a month to really sit down and be grateful for all that we have. So we did a whole month for a thankfulness calendar, and each day students would post a picture of a thing/person that they were thankful for accordingly with each day. Things like a book, a teacher, a pet, a friend that we're thankful for. And it was really interesting to see the different things that we are all thankful for. Next slide, please. Thank you. So for student outreach, because this year has been so challenging for all of us, we've been trying to stay connected with all of our students using both our Stugo Instagram page and the Maryvale Instagram account to keep our students updated and informed on all of our Spirit Weeks, events, and so much more. Some upcoming events that we have planned for this next 2 weeks is a gingerbread house competition via Zoom, which will be held next Friday, December 11th. And then our last Spirit Week of the semester, which will be holiday themed, which is during the week of December 7th through the 11th. And that is all that I have for you all today. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tanya. And with that, President Para, that concludes this portion of the agenda. Of course, if any of the board has any comments or questions for our STUGO leaders, they are on the call for a few more minutes.
Thank you so much, Dr. Guestin, and thank you to Brendan, Brianna, and Tanya for your presentations. Board members, do you have any questions or comments for our students? All right, thank you guys so much for joining us. Really appreciate the updates.
Of course, thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The next item on the agenda board is item 3B, reports from our employee organizations. Tonight we'll begin with CTA, so Dr. Coleman.
Okay, good evening, President Parr, governing board members, and Dr. Guestin. As we close out this semester, I just want everyone to know that we continue to identify and resolve the challenges that are associated with teaching in this current environment where we're in the midst of both a healthcare crisis and an economic crisis. The CTA leadership team, along with all of our members, remain committed to the collaborative spirit of the district, as evidenced by our continued participation in task force meetings, focus group conversations, the interest-based negotiation process, and any other ad hoc opportunity that arises. Once again, as many are looking forward to the break, I would like to note that it will not be a break for the certified employees of the district who will be planning lessons, adapting curriculum, building schedules, and adding more tools to their professional toolboxes so that we can be ready for the start of the second semester regardless of the instructional model that we are given. I'd like to end my comments tonight by acknowledging Member Danley. And I must admit that I was a little emotional over here. Ian probably doesn't remember our first meeting, but it was at the AEA office. And I don't think that he was even a board member at the time. It was at a directions conference hosted by Paul Lowe's, and he mentioned Paul earlier. And I was dealing with some issue that I will not share publicly, but I shared it with Ian and he was like, here's my card, how can I help? I will never forget that. You didn't know me, I didn't know you, you weren't on the board at the time, but it's like, here's my card, how can I help? Your passion for education and educators, your passion for those of us that, basically live and work and breathe in this district every single day did not go unnoticed and will continue to be held up as a standard. We may not always agree. We never will always agree. Just acknowledge that. But the respect that you have shown us as educators, even when we are in the midst of a disagreement, and the fact that you allow that disagreement to happen, forever thankful, forever grateful. Your relentless determination to see us be better, and in my mind, to make us better, didn't go unnoticed, will always be remembered. And I hope that you will continue to be in and around that building that we share, and that I will run into you very soon. So with that, and as Stephanie kind of alluded to before we just all fall apart in tears, I want to wish everyone a safe and happy holiday season. Looking forward to 2021, where hopefully we can all get together in person, even if we have to stand 10 feet apart. Just looking forward to seeing everyone and having a conversation in the same room. And again, Ian, I am so grateful for our friendship, and I'm so honored that you allowed me to be a part of your circle. Thank you, everyone. Good night.
Thank you so much, Dr. Coleman. On that note, we have Ms. Jimenez from CEA next.
Good evening, President Barra, board members. Phoenix Union leadership, and of course our community. First, I want to start off by saying thank you to Board Member Danley for his service to the ESPs of Phoenix Union and our community. You always challenged our thinking, and even though at times we didn't always agree, we were still able to get the hard work done, and that really helped the ESPs in our community. So I wish you the best on the next chapter of your journey. And ya tu sabes, you always have membership in CEA because we're going to forever be your people. So you know where to find us. So thank you. I am forever grateful. As we prepare for winter recess, I wanted to take the time, and as you can see in the slides, to really speak to the work of our ESPs and how this recess means so much to us. Since March, we have been in overdrive and high alert. And you can see in the photos, we've been on the front lines doing our work that, yes, we signed up to do, but now in some of the most unconventional ways that we never thought of. Our transportation department, they're driving routes of not only students, but food and supplies to families, helping the IT and maintenance departments. IT has even been out on curbs and assuring that students can drive up and get all of the technology they need. And so everyone stays safe, not to mention the increased amount of staff that are now needing additional help, and most of whom are working from home. But our IT is still showing up. Security, they've all become Jack and Jills of all trades as well. Taking temperatures, delivering supplies, as well as keeping the safety of our sites at the forefront of their jobs. Payroll and talent, trying to assure that everyone is getting paid and taking 3 and 4 checks of the TCP sign-ins to assure that no staff come up short on their paychecks. Not to mention still processing new staff, so when we need them, we have the boots on ground. Finance, still making sure all the bills are paid and orders are still happening so that when students and staff come back, everything they need will be there. Our trades, I think if it's the second slide, are building things they never thought they would have to build when they went through their apprenticeships, like hundreds of plexiglass shields and new cubicles and partitions. Maintenance, their job has always been to know the latest OSHA standards, but on cleaning and disinfecting, but now they're experts on CDC standards so that sanitizing is done and done well to keep everyone safe, even unfortunately at their own expense. Our student liaisons, who very well knew the frequent flyers when we were on sites of who just decided not to go to class or who needed an extra phone call, but now they're even checking on those students who aren't logging in virtually just because that's not their cup of tea, but they're assuring that those students get the referral to our community liaisons who have now taken on additional functions based on wherever they need to fill in for other positions, so that not only our most vulnerable students, but our staff are able to get services they need. Food service, feeding everyone under 18, which is a proud moment for them, that they're even delivering something they probably never thought they would have to do, but delivering food to an apartment complex is new to them. Registration offices are still open, sites are still able to be accessed so that our communities still have what they need. But again, as you can see by the pictures, we're not all safely working in an office, but you will see a smile shine through those masks of the pride they feel in the work they do. We have been blessed to offer the Classified Fall Academy to learn strategies that will make us not only feel better about our careers that we've chosen, but the skills to even do better. The additional funds from Fall Academy will also help some be able to pay a bill they may have fallen behind on. But again, I ask that you look at the photos and see where our ESPs have been, and they've been there with pride. They will remain there as long as it takes, even if there are those who don't feel they deserve the same respect or amenities. So this break means a lot to us, as you can imagine. It will give us the time to go home and spend that quality time with our families, recharge so that we can come back and continue to do what we do best, and that's show up ready to work and support everyone every day. I remain proud to serve our ESPs no matter how hard it gets, how painful the work or words can be, but I am honored and committed to serving them and being that shield and voice for them. So I hope they all get the needed time off. My ask is for positive vibes, prayers to the God you may serve for all of my colleagues that they find peace and rest during winter recess. And I wish the same to all of the Phoenix Union family. Thank you, President Fara, for this time.
Thank you so much, Ms. Jimenez. And finally, our Administrators Association, Ms. Jackson.
Good evening, President Fara, Governing Board members, Superintendent Dr. Guestin, leadership team, and community. This month, ADA would like to highlight our assistant principals for student success. We have Jeff Heredia at Fairfax, Matt Smith at Alhambra, Judy Weber at Bostrom, Omar Delgado at Trevor Brown, Steve Kuipers at Camelback, Susanna Huntley at Central, Richard Verduzco at Chavez, Tim Gooding at Desiderata, Martin Perez at Carl Hayden, Jose Arenas and Steve Contreras at Maryville, Keith Brazier at Metrotech, Jamie Johnson at North, and Martin Diaz, who is in one of the academies at South Principal, but also serving in the role as an APS. Some of their job duties include directing schools' implementation, interpretation, and articulation of the PXU students' code of conduct, supporting the coordination of students' access to comprehensive behavioral intervention and support, directing campuses' integration of restorative practices, providing administrative oversight to campus student support teams, security teams, and community liaisons, leading schools' development and implementation of the emergency response procedures. Some of the highlights that we wanted to share: our APSs have offered invaluable support to their respective school communities as we navigate unprecedented times during COVID-19. They have coordinated behavioral, social, emotional support to our students, collaborating with members of campus student support teams and student access to timely and tailored interventions, coordinate on-site learning opportunities to our most vulnerable students, work with their campus teams to ensure safety of their respective campuses, and much, much more. Please join me in thanking and recognizing our APSs as well as the members of their team. We would also like to take the time to thank Mr. Danley for your courageous leadership, commitment, creativity, innovation, and compassion for our staff, students, and community within Phoenix Union High School. We wish you the best in years to come. Please don't be a stranger. We'd also like to wish everybody happy holidays, stay safe, and I'm sure we're all looking forward to closing the book on this chapter of 2020 and moving on to 2021. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Jackson, and to all of our employee organizations. Thank you for your comments tonight. I do want to give Mr. Danley a moment. I know obviously this is your final board meeting, so please, Mr. Danley, if you have any comments for our employee organization leaders.
Yeah, thank you so much for your kind words. Your leadership from the three of you has been, I think, especially important in this last season. And you were the ones we were waiting for. When I stepped on the board, my history teacher, Mr. Lowe's, was the president, or not, maybe not quite. I think he had maybe just been elected. Ed Bufford was still the president, so he was in leadership, but he wasn't. He was like the political chair. And I loved Mr. Lowe's in high school, and not all of my teachers and I got along all the time. But him and I did, and he was an amazing person, but also an amazing educator, and very effective with me. And I can tell you my term on the board held my term paper title, American Response to Japanese Militarism up to and including Pearl Harbor. I know that paper. I internalized the lessons from that research. So what the staff meant to me, I remember going to Big Willie when a friend had taken his life my senior year of high school and cried and with the security because I needed help as a student. I remember what Miss Kloss meant. I remember what administrators meant in my life. These people it changed me, loved me, cared for me, and I've always felt an affection and a loyalty to you all as and what you do professionally. But also I've seen other districts now that don't have associations like we have. And so it's not just as individuals or as leaders on sites or in the district office, but also as an association, what you mean and what you contribute and how you strengthen and change Phoenix Union. And the ways we're different because we have these strong associations, and how I've always valued that and tried to communicate that. And I'm so honored to hear your kind words. And I just want to tell you my feelings mutual, and I was so honored to work alongside you these past 8 years.
Thank you so much, Member Danley. Members, the next item on the agenda is item 4A, call to the public. According to ARS 38-431, at the conclusion of call to the public, members of the public body may respond to criticism made by those who address the public body, may ask the staff to review a matter, or may ask that a matter be put on a future agenda. However, members may not take legal action on matters raised during an open call to the public unless matters have been properly noticed for discussion or legal action. Due to the ongoing COVID-19 situation, a link was provided to the public for individuals wishing to address our governing board. We have 4 requests to speak. Presenters are limited to 2 minutes. There will be a timer on the screen here. I would like to caution members of the audience about commenting on a particular individual and ask that you not, thank you for not referring to any person by name. The following speakers, we'll be calling the following speakers in this order. First, Laisha Greer, Matthew Burke, third, Abia Khan, and fourth, Tara Van Skoy. So our first caller, Ms. Laisha Greer. Ms. Greer, you may address the governing board and you have 2 minutes.
Address what?
Go ahead, Ms. Greer. You can address the governing board. If you could please state your name for us and then let us know what your comment is.
What comment?
Yes, go ahead.
What comment?
Your comment to the board.
I don't know.
Okay. The next caller is Mr. Matthew Burke. Mr. Burke, your comment, please, and you have 2 minutes.
Hello, everyone. My name is Matthew Burke. I'm a teacher at Trevor Brown High School. I understand that we haven't been given a return to work order at this time. However, I have heard rumors about the inequity of where Phoenix Union employees are required to work. But this is not an equity issue. This is a civic responsibility issue. Any employee that can work remotely should work remotely to reduce the risk of spreading the virus to those that cannot work remotely and to reduce the risk of spreading the virus in our community. If I'm ordered back to school against my will, the quality of instruction my students will receive will remain unchanged. But the risk of contracting COVID for Trevor Brown employees and the community it serves will increase. We didn't need state leadership to do the right thing for our community last March, and we don't need state leadership to continue to do the right thing. Please consider our civic responsibility during this crisis when considering any changes to where employees are permitted to fulfill their job responsibilities. Thank you very much and stay safe.
Thank you so much, Mr. Burke. And I know, Dr. Guestin, you'll be providing an update to the board on reopening, yes?
Yes, President Parra and community, we have a presentation later today.
Thank you so much. Our next caller is Ms. Abia Khan. Ms. Khan, you can please provide your comment.
Hi, thank you so much for your time. Well, first off, I just want to thank Mr. Danley for his service to the board. And I hope that the new board member, whoever he is, can continue what you've done. So my comment is similar to the previous comment. I'm just asking that the board be very intentional when reopening schools. I really commend the board and the district for the current response. I know it's been very difficult, and I do not envy you for being in that decision to make all these decisions in the middle of a pandemic. And I'm very glad that the board is taking a step back and kind of paused the current reopening plans, but it was a little distressing to see some of the plans, especially with the on-site Tuesdays and requiring certain groups of teachers to be on campus. You know, I just ask that the board continue and the district continue to base their response on science and public health guidance. This pandemic does disproportionately affect people of color, and we are a district that serves with a population of students who are 80% minorities. So just asking that the board be very, very intentional and not move too hastily. I know it's a very difficult decision. However, yeah, that's all I have to say is please be deliberate and do this slowly. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Khan. And our last caller tonight is Ms. Tara Van Scoy. Ms. Van Scoy, you may now address the governing board. You have 2 minutes.
Good evening to everyone. My name is Tara Van Scoy. I'm a science teacher at Trevor Brown. I'd like to thank you for this opportunity to address the board. I'd also like to express my appreciation that the decisions for the district are being based for the safety for all stakeholders due to COVID. I'd like to address 2 concerns. The first one is the in-person site attendance of stakeholders, and the second is the quality of online versus in-person teaching. First, having teachers report many weeks before students are on campus does pose a risk and add stress to our staff. It's also an issue for staff that have children that might not be starting in-person classes at the same time when we are told to report. It's understandable to have teachers come back before the students, but I really want to advocate that that time lapse is very minimal between the 2 groups. The second concern that I have is the quality of instruction that stems from an email that came from Talent on November 30th. There were statements made about analyzing our grading practices, ensure fairness. And one of the articles that was provided really hit home with me about providing students with sympathy or diminished expectations won't answer the challenges of a learning gap, but effective grading policies will. So teachers are struggling as well. So I just want to advocate that we have a teacher kind of like a decision tree for any content and grading practicing shifts that we may have for this year and make it a priority for the 21-22 school year to minimize the flux for all and reduce our learning gap for our students. Thank you very much. And Board Member Delaney, thank you for your exceptional service to the district. I appreciate you and good luck for the future.
Thank you so much, Ms. Van Scoy. And that concludes our call to the public. Members, the next item on the agenda is item 5A, approval of our consent agenda. Dr. Guestin.
President Parra and members of the board, we recommend approval of the entire consent agenda. Want to just highlight 3 really small revisions to the agenda. In item 8B, changes of assignment. Employee number 4 on the agenda as it currently reads, the employees going from Camelback to Carl Hayden, and it's supposed to read from Carl Hayden to Camelback. So please note that. Second, on item 8F, there's a request for a leave of absence. Employee number 2 actually no longer needs that leave of absence, so that will be removed. And then finally, on item 8H, on the approval of revised job descriptions for campus security dispatch. The position is currently listed as grade 4, and that's grade 5. So 3 small changes, and recommend full approval of the consent agenda.
Thank you so much, Dr. Guestin. Board members, at this time, this is an action item. If you could please unmute your microphone, we'll be taking a vote. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda items as amended?
So moved.
I heard a motion to approve the consent agenda as amended by Councilwoman Pastor, and a second by, I think it was Senator Alston that spoke up first. Is there any discussion? On the motion, those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Those opposed indicate by saying nay. Any abstentions? The motion carries. Board members, you can mute your microphone at this time. The next item is item 6A, Superintendent's Report. Dr. Guestin.
President Parra and members of the Phoenix Union community, again, just want to thank Board Member Danley for his service. I did not mention Board Member Danley. We have a great plaque that you will receive. I want to thank our marketing communications team, not only for this plaque, but our team did put together that video for you. And then, as we've done for other board members, you'll get your parking sign and your name plaque as well delivered to you very safely soon. So once again, sir, thank you for your service. Also wanted to formally, once again, congratulate Senator Alston, who was re-elected and will return to Phoenix Union for the next 4 years. Also, as we mentioned last month, Senator Alston was also re-elected to the Senate. Thank you so much, Senator, for your service here to Phoenix Union and to our state. And then also wanted to welcome to the family, Board Member-elect Aaron Marquez. In fact, Board Member Marquez was invited here to the meeting. Mr. Marquez is very excited to join our family, has been involved in some new governing board member onboarding over the last couple of weeks. We had an opportunity to meet with him as well. Are very excited to have him join the PXU family. And Mr. Marquez, if you want to share a word or two, you can feel free to do so right now.
Yeah, I just wanted to thank everybody, all of the board members, President Parra, Board Member Danley, Superintendent Guestin. I know I have big shoes to fill. Ian has been a friend for a long time, and I know I can count on his mentorship as I learn the ropes during this next year. I know this is a tough time to serve with all that is going on due to the COVID-19 pandemic, and I will make sure that I listen to all of the stakeholders and especially our public health care professionals during this time. But looking forward to officially starting in January, and that won't take up any more time on tonight's agenda. But thank you again, and look forward to starting in January. Happy holidays.
Thank you so much, Board Member-elect Aaron Marquez. Very excited to have you join the board. Just want to share a few more things before I turn it back over to President Parra. Just want to highlight some events. Last month was National School Psychology Week. Want to thank all of the school psychologists here in Phoenix Union and all those providing social emotional support to our young men and young women. I think more than ever, mental health must be a priority for our broader community. Also wanted to thank all of those involved in our education, our Exceptional Student Services Department. National Special Education Day was earlier this week on December 2nd, and am more grateful perhaps than ever before to the work of our ESS department, who have done all they can to meet the individual education plans of our over 2,000 ESS students here in Phoenix Union. Thank you so much to our director, Wendy Collison, and all of our staff for your work in supporting our students. Earlier this month, we partnered with Phoenix Children's Hospital to bring a marathon, a fundraiser, allowed them to use our facility very safely to bring awareness to many cancers here in our community, and also did a fundraiser. And so thank you so much to Phoenix Children's Hospital. That's been a great partner for many years to Phoenix Union. We also had an opportunity earlier this month to recognize all of our employees who hit 5-year milestones, 5, 10, 15, 20, all the way up to year 45. That picture on the bottom left, for those who can see it, is Miss Jean Kilker, who is now in her 46th year in Phoenix Union, and want to thank all of our employees. We have nearly 4,000 full and part-time employees here in PXU, and I'm very grateful to the efforts and commitment of all involved here in our community. Very briefly, want to thank our administrators. If you have joined us over the last few months, we've taken time to recognize our ESPs, took time to recognize our teachers and our certified staff, and wanted to just spend just a minute thanking our leaders across Phoenix Union. We're a very big community. We have, as I mentioned, nearly 4,000 employees, 30,000 students. That means about 50,000 parents, 13 partner districts, tens of thousands of stakeholders, and have just over 100 administrators to take the lead on all that work. It's a daunting task. It's one of the most challenging times, if not the most challenging time to be in leadership. As someone who sits in a leadership role, I can tell you it's not fun to lead during these challenging times, and wanted to thank our campus principals. This is a picture of a few of them, but also wanted to thank all involved at district as well as assistant principals. Thank you for navigating challenging times, being willing to make tough decisions, be criticized, work long hours, and just feel so grateful. Again, not just for administrators, but you heard tonight from Dr. Coleman and Vanessa Jimenez, the great work of all of our employees. We also had our expo. It was virtual this time for the first time ever. It was a fantastic event. Actually had more registrations this year on Expo Day than we have in previous years. I want to thank our marketing communications team. We had a great theme, which was Level Up. We had an opportunity to do a virtual for the first hour, and then did open up our campuses. So students and families that wanted to come safely could come to our campus and register. Again, thank you to all involved in the planning, but also those involved in the execution of that day. Also wanted to thank all involved in academic decathlon. Even though we have been remote, as you can tell, every time we see pictures and videos and Stugo reports, Phoenix Union is not closed. We are working, I would argue, harder than ever to do our best to provide educational opportunities and extracurricular opportunities, and had a chance to bring together our academic decathlon students a couple weekends ago for a virtual / safe in-person academic decathlon, and wanted to, you see a picture there of Board Member Prescott. Thank you so much, Board Member Prescott, for always being an advocate for Acadec and always staying engaged. I also wanted to thank all of our ESPs and those involved in food distribution. We know that distributing food during holiday season is extremely important, and we were able to give out 400 food boxes over the Thanksgiving weekend and in preparation for the Thanksgiving weekend. Also wanted to congratulate our marketing and communications team. Once a year, annual awards are given out to school districts and systems that really have shown excellence in their work. And Phoenix Union not only received 4 honorable mentions, but actually received 6 excellence awards, the highest honor. And as you can see, we won awards for our videos, our new website, our convocation, as well as our new brand, and want to thank Mr. Richard Franco and our entire marketing communications team for their remarkable work. Also wanted to thank so many members of our community. We could not serve our staff and our students alone. One great example is Support My Club, who was on campuses this morning delivering PPE as we prepare at some point. We'll talk about that a little bit later today. At some point to bring back in-person learning. We've got a massive donation of PPE to make sure that we are fully prepared when we return to in-person learning. And then my final slide is just a reminder to the board and the broader community that Phoenix Union is doing a ribbon cutting ceremony next week at Maryvale High School, our gifted and talented academy. Very excited to cut the ribbon on the new remodel at Maryvale, but also a new building for JRTC and a massive remodel in our Performing Arts and Visual Arts Center. And thank you to our tech and logistics team and Ms. Laura Tejas for all your work in preparing that facilities and making sure that we're prepared. With that, I will turn it back to you, President Parra.
Thank you, Dr. Geston. Board members, before we move to the next item, are there any questions for Dr. Geston at this time? Or comments? Right. Then the next item on the agenda is item 7A, planning for in-person learning, a day in the life scenarios, and it'll be presented by Ms. Thea Andrade, our Chief Academic Officer, Ms. Michelle Gales, our Chief Strategy Officer, but I will first turn it over to Dr. Geston.
President Para and members of the board, tonight we have a presentation titled Planning for In-Person Learning, a Day in the Life of. And tonight you will get a glimpse into some of the planning behind the scenes to prepare for in-person learning. Just want to share a couple of things before I turn it over to Ms. Andrade and Ms. Gales. And go to the next slide. First, just want to remind the broader community that we did do all that we can to bring back as safely as possible some in-person opportunities during the second quarter. We know it is very challenging from a mental health and academic perspective to have our students at home for months on end. We also know that it's not safe to bring students back in the middle of a pandemic when levels are high. And so very grateful to our entire team for bringing back opportunities safely during the second quarter. Now, part of the reason why we were able to bring back some of those opportunities during the second quarter is that our spread was actually reducing. And you can see just by the red and yellow that early in September, the spread was high. And as we got toward the second quarter, our zip codes moved more toward the yellow, and it became safe at that time to offer some on-site opportunities. Unfortunately, as we look to our planning for third quarter, this is a recent graph, a current graph, you see now that the spread of COVID in our community is moving in the wrong direction. The zip codes represented on the left that were a little more than half yellow, which, by the way, at some point, those 36 zip codes got down to only 4 in the red, the rest in the yellow. We are now at 35 of the 36 major zip codes that we track in the red at substantial spreads. The spread is moving fast and rapidly and dangerously, and we're very aware and track that very, very closely. What we do know, governing board, is we have some big decisions to be made in preparation for the third quarter, and just want to share a couple thoughts related to that. First, we know based on that spread that it is very likely that we're not going to be able to bring back in-person learning at the beginning of third quarter. We will make an announcement next week. We're going to wait to see the spread for just a few more days until we make a final decision, but we are aware, fully aware, as we track the spread of COVID, that it is getting worse, not better. An announcement will come next week. We do also know at the same time that we want our students and our staff back as soon as possible. We'll not do that until it's safe to do so. But we also know that if Phoenix Union makes a decision to stay in remote learning for the next quarter, that would mean that we've been remote for a year. We started remote learning in March of 2020. Our third quarter runs January, February, and the first half of March. And so if, in fact, we do go to remote learning and remain in distance learning for third quarter, that would mean that over a year has taken place since we've been in person. And that's concerning to us, and are constantly reading the data and making sure that we're making the right decisions. As a team, we are still committed to making long-term decisions. We've been committed to making quarter-by-quarter decisions. We believe that day-to-day and week-to-week decisions, as we've seen all across the country and even here in our state, has provided a lot of challenges for our students, staff, and families. We are concerned that making a decision next week that we will remain in remote learning for the entire quarter means that our students don't come back till almost April. And so over the next week, as we make final decisions about third quarter learning, we will revisit that quarter-by-quarter decision. We'll meet soon with leaders and association leaders and even consider the possibility of maybe going half quarter by half quarter and not full quarter at a time so that we don't push off in-person learning too far if, in fact, it's safe to bring it back. But that's one of the big decisions that we have to make over the next week, knowing that it will very likely not be safe to come back in January, but there could be a possibility midway through the quarter. Again, that's a decision we'll be very public about and transparent about over the next couple of weeks. We do also know that when we start to prepare to bring our students back, that does mean we have to bring our staff back. And so we are also in the process of planning what's the right timing to bring our staff back. We will. You even heard a couple of calls to the public tonight that there is some fear that we'll bring staff back next quarter. It's certainly a possibility. Again, we must be fully prepared to bring our students back, 100% prepared, professionally, academically, but also from safety protocol perspective. And so we'll continue to make the right decisions about when to bring staff back, but also have to make sure that we're prepared for our students. And then a final thing that I'll say, just as I tee up the conversation for Ms. Andrade and Ms. Gales, what you're going to see today from this presentation are a couple of things. One, you will see how complex it is as we plan to bring back in-person learning. Again, even if that's not in January, we are still preparing for in-person learning as soon as it's safe to do so. And you'll see that there is great complexity in ensuring safety of staff and students and visitors when they come to campuses. And you're going to hear about this idea of a day in the life of scenario in a partnership with Chiefs for Change in making sure that we are fully prepared for all scenarios. And then we are also going to hear is the complexity of choosing the perfect instructional delivery models. And I almost use that word perfect in a facetious manner, that what we've seen across the country, and you'll hear today, is that there's no perfect instructional delivery model for hybrid learning. You're going to hear our team talk about 3 models that we've shared with our community, one that's most common across the country, that is most flexible, but also is a burden on some, and other models have just as much complexity and difficulties as well. And ultimately what you're going to see tonight is that our team, in partnership with focus groups and task forces, campus leadership, and our association leadership, is grappling with very difficult decisions about when to come back, how to come back, and what instructional delivery model to ultimately choose. And again, all those decisions will be made by the middle of next week as we do final preparations. With that, I will turn it over to Ms. Andrade, as well as Ms. Gales, to lead you through a discussion tonight. Thank you.
Good evening, President Para, Dr. Gustin, members of the board, executive team, and our greater Phoenix Union community. Phoenix Union has been actively engaged in ongoing planning and preparation for the return to in-person learning. We know our students and families are excited and anxious to return to campus as soon as it is safe to do so. And we too very much miss our students and our staff interacting on campuses each and every day. Tonight, we will share with you some of the highlights around the processes and planning for returning safely and responsibly to in-person learning. There are 3 major areas of focus that really integrate together to form our plan. The operational side, which is focused on safety, protocols, practices, and procedures. The instructional delivery side, which really is our model and what that will impact and how it will look in classrooms. And lastly, our data and the local context associated with community spread and our various Phoenix Union zip codes. Next. So throughout the last 6 to 7 months, we have been actively engaging numerous members of the Phoenix Union community to inform and develop our plan. Now, whether they participated on one of our 9 task forces, in our day in the life of scenarios, or just provided feedback on the various models, we engaged members of our community in the process, teachers, administrators, CEE leadership, association leadership, various educational support professionals from registrars to security. And I really want to take this opportunity to personally thank each of the members that contributed and participated in the planning and preparation, whether it was on a task force, a feedback session, or even in the day in the life of. There is no doubt that we probably spent numerous hours together grappling with several really complex issues that really there were no easy answers or solutions to associated with a safe return to in-person learning. So thank you. Next. So let's go ahead and dive into the operational side of the plan, beginning with the work of our 9 task forces. You may recall this work first began back in late May, early June. And as you can see from the examples, much of the work of our task forces have been implemented and operationalized on our campuses every day. For example, our campuses have entry point check-ins for health screening, temperature checks. You'll see directional markers in various spots across campuses, plexiglass in our main offices. Our waiting areas look different as well. And we've provided additional support from IT through the help desk, social emotional support, and professional development. Once the task force work was underway, we had a unique opportunity to engage and really merge the work in a valuable planning simulation that we refer to as the Day in the Life of. Day in the Life of was shared with us through the Chiefs for Change organization. Urban school districts such as New York City, Chicago, Tulsa public schools had engaged in these simulations and found them to be valuable, informative, and a collaborative tool for both districts and schools to really better prepare for the return to in-person learning. For us, I think the Day in the Life of really helped us to walk in the shoes of a student, of a teacher, and of a support professional. It helped us identify the gaps in our plans where we were weak, pressure test our plan, and really address and discuss the what-if scenarios, which, by the end of those sessions ended up being referred to as the what-when scenarios, because we knew that it was just a matter of time before one of those what-ifs would have happened on one of our campuses eventually. And ultimately, the Day in the Life of really serves nicely as a marketing and a communication tool for our larger community, our families, students, our staff, around the expectations that will be associated with this new normal. After all, our campuses are going to look and feel very different than they did last February, and it's important that we communicate what those expectations are and how things will be different. So let's transition now to Ms. Michelle Gales to walk you through some of the highlights and examples from the Day in the Life of.
Thank you, Thea. We are going to take a moment to walk you through the process and outcomes of Day in the Life of planning from an operational perspective. As Thea mentioned, we completed this process for a student, teacher, and education support professional. This evening, we're going to actually take a look at the daily journey of Maria, a 10th grade general education student. Our first step in the process was to identify the touch points in Maria's day that needed to have an operational plan. If you look at the visual here, you can see that we mapped out important touch points throughout the day from step 1 through 9, from traveling to school to being dismissed from school and potentially going home or participating in clubs and sports. Next. Once we identified the touch points, we crafted the questions we needed to answer. Key questions for planning, as well as communicating the most pressing answers to our students, staff, and families. We could see questions from traveling on the bus of how many students will be on the bus. If you look at Maria in her first class, we asked questions about social distancing. If you look at where she ate lunch, we even talked about, will cash be accepted or will exact change be required? These are all questions that we grappled with as part of Day in the Life planning. Next. Once we identified all of the key questions, we then dove into each key point along Maria's journey throughout the day to answer those very important questions. So on this visual, you can see on the left-hand side are the key questions we had to ask about Maria arriving at school from 8:15 through 8:27, those touch points just for that one event. And to the right, you can see the typical journey or the responses to those questions that help us understand how are we keeping Maria safe and healthy and following all the important operational guidelines that keep us 6-foot social distancing with the appropriate PPE so that everyone is healthy and safe. You can also see to the right that there are what if scenarios on these slides. So we know that for every single touch point, for instance, on this one, where does Maria go after disembarking from the bus? What if it's raining when Maria arrives at school? There may be a different set of operations that we have to think about if it's actually raining. As Ms. Andrade said, for every single touch point, it's not a what if, it's a what when. And so we have scenarios for each of those. Next. So the group grappled with Maria eating breakfast and what safety looks like for that event. That's third step along the way. Next. And much more discussion happened about what happens when Maria is in her classes. And so being in class, most of her classes will look the same. So we really grappled with, as a team, what does transition look like into a classroom? From how does it look like to clean desks? We had to go through all of the what if scenarios around technology and wearing face masks. Next. You can continue on to the next one where we show actually Maria's eating lunch. We have to think about all of the things of safe serving of food. Finally, we actually looked at Maria being dismissed from campus. And so we thought about all of the ins and outs of getting in and out of school buildings safely. Next slide. And so you can see from beginning to end, from 1 through 9, in this instance, we're looking at slide 8, but we're even grappling with what if Maria has to go see a guidance counselor? What does that protocol look like? It's important to know, previous slide, please. Perfect. If you can go to the next slide. Thank you. It is important to know that for every one of those touch points along the way that you saw, there's a more comprehensive set of questions and plans that support it. So for instance, for Maria arrives at school, if you look at how will we social distance, go all the way over to the right, you can see that there are campus plans with minimum district standards just for that one question. So know that we have the visual for simple, clean, clear communication for our students, teachers, staff, and families, but there are plans that reside behind that. Now I would turn it back over to Ms. Andrade to talk about our instructional models.
So across the country, we really see the power of local control with model selection, but also the influence of data and local context with respect to geography. For example, we know that in the fall, more than half of the rural districts returned to in-person learning, and that about a quarter of suburban districts did as well. Yet only 5 to 6% of urban districts opened for in-person learning. We also know that elementary versus high school played a role in parent decisions on return. Nationally, on average, districts have seen anywhere from 30 to 40% of high school students electing in-person options. Some of our own sister high school districts here in Arizona were also mirroring these national statistics. So I want to be clear as I proceed that all these models have pros and cons. And as Dr. G mentioned, there is no one model that is perfect. And across the country, I'm certain no one has gotten this right yet. But we do know we have committed to the following assumptions. What we select as a district-wide model. We will place the safety and the well-being of our students and staff as our top priority. We know we will allow families to switch from in-person to remote at any time, but from remote to in-person only at the quarter. And we know that we'll utilize the ability for all of our campuses to offer online instruction with the recent license from the state of all schools having the AOI. To that end, we've explored 3 models in Phoenix Union. And as you can see, we have models A, B, and C. So let's take a closer look at each one. Okay, so model A is both virtual and in-person students are blended together. Nationally, perhaps the most common model. In a sense, we've seen really 2 approaches to this model emerge nationally. One, where districts have asked teachers to teach to both with the same level of focus, resulting in extremely frustrated teachers. A second approach districts have taken where they've asked teachers to focus on remote learning, having the in-person students in their classroom following along on the computers, but to really focus on teaching online. Teachers use breaks and asynchronous time to check on students and provide support. This model has the ability to quickly scale up or down through the use of assigned cohort days. You may have heard day A, day B. Let's go to the next model. Okay, model B. Again, students would select whether they wanted to be virtual or in person, but model B allows for flexibility from class to class in the modality of instruction. So a teacher, for example, could have a first and a second period in person, but the third period be remote.
or really any combination of in-person or remote classes. It allows the teacher to focus solely on the group of students in person in front of them, or the group of students remote on their computer. And lastly, we have Model C, which is also really similar to Model B, but perhaps the most purest of the models. In Model C, you have a designated group of teachers that teach virtual and only virtual classes, and a designated group of teachers that teach only in-person classes. Again, the students select whether they're going to go in person or remote, and it allows for the teachers to have a focus on one delivery method and one group of students, whether that be virtual or in person. So as we look across at the models, we know that teachers and student experience matters greatly. We also know that flexibility, scalability, and access matter and play a role as well. We know that quarantining is going to happen. It's inevitable. And we want to ensure that whatever model we go with, there is a seamless plan for continuity of instruction and continuity of teacher whenever possible. And for those reasons, you can see why Model A is the most common across the country due to the flexibility, the scalability, the impact on class sizes, and the access it provides. Yet at the same time, it can also be one of the most challenging models for teachers to manage, both in person and remote together, if not done correctly. Model B and C are very similar in many ways. As I stated, students choose. From the teacher's perspective, they're managing one group of students per class, allowing that focus to be on what's in front of them. These models also present some real challenges for districts implementing them across the country. Increased staffing it's not an option for many school districts. So consequently, to remain pure, class sizes often increase for in-person or dramatically have to increase for virtual, but they have to increase somewhere. Because you can't place students in cohorts when it's a pure in-person experience. An A day or a B day, while still providing daily instruction, isn't an option. So the ability to keep classes small poses some issues. Additionally, students quarantined for a week or two at a time, there could be challenges in an in-person model. And because of limited staffing, student access to all classes will also be challenging, depending on how and when the class is offered. So for example, if an upper division CTE or an AP class, like we refer to as singletons or doubletons, they're not often offered, maybe one section of it in person. If it's offered in person, the virtual students wouldn't have the ability to access that in a pure model. So there is no perfect answer. In all of our feedback sessions, I can tell you one theme that certainly emerged is zero consensus on any one given model. Many had strong opinions, and we're grateful they shared those on one model. Some liked certain models, while others didn't like any of the models. Some really advocated for Model B, while others preferred Model A. At the end of the day, we believe we heard Model C had the least level of support or presented the biggest challenges from a timing and equity lens. But as you can see, there is no perfect choice, and each model has benefits and challenges. So as we move closer to finalizing, models A and B continue to be the top models. We're committed to making the model selection next week, as Dr. G mentioned, as we make the final decision around the return for January. Let's now transition to the final portion of the presentation, where we look at the community data that will help inform the return to in-person plan. Ms. Gales.
Thank you. Dr. Guestin referred a little bit earlier in his presentation around current data related to COVID-19 community spread. And that is an important data point to inform our in-person learning planning. A couple of things I would like to note that we know about the data is that currently all but one zip code in Phoenix Union boundaries is red, and that districts that had returned to in-person have been returning to remote learning since the end of October due to the impact of increased cases. Next slide. As Dr. Guestin showed you a little bit earlier, this reflects the data from the Arizona Department of Health Services. All the rows represent zip codes within the Phoenix Union boundaries, and all of the columns represents the last few weeks. You can see the rapid increase from yellow to red between the 5th of November and the 25th of November. a trend we continue to watch that puts Phoenix Union schools in substantial spread. Next slide. Looking at the data, talking about the instructional delivery models, and thinking about our operational plannings, we have a few key next steps to really solidify a plan and be prepared for in-person learning. That is to select an instructional delivery model, and Ms. Andrade talked about in all of our discussions, model A and B really rose to the top as the ones to consider. It's important that we finalize a bell schedule that really allows for both in-person and remote learning. Parent selection and input is another key data point to help us to understand the demand for in-person learning and plan appropriately. And regardless of the model that we choose, we also know that we have trainings that are necessary from a safety protocol as well as professional development for teachers based on that model selection. We know that communication is key. We know that our students, our families, and our staff are eagerly awaiting communication around what our models will be, what our bell schedules will be, and when we will be returning to in-person learning. That concludes our presentation, and we are open for questions at this time.
Members, I will open up the floor for questions.
President Parra?
Yes, Member Prescott.
Thank you. So I just want to share a couple of my thoughts and a couple anecdotes. I appreciate all the work the team has done in looking at the data and looking at the different models. I think that is really great, and I believe that we've managed this much better than any other school district in Arizona. I think that there was some discussion about quarter three and making a final decision and whether or not we would need to make an all-quarter decision. I think the reality is that the numbers are going to continue to go up. The numbers that almost all red column that was shared, that was the week of Thanksgiving. So given that we know people went together and they met on Thanksgiving, we know it's going to continue to increase over the next couple of weeks. We've got Christmas coming up and Hanukkah, and those will also increase. And we've seen some limited action at the local level to control this. City of Phoenix closed parks, City of Tucson put in their curfew, but their hands are really tied by the state government and the governor and Governor Ducey's executive orders. And barring action from the state, and the state has not shown leadership on this issue, it is unlikely that we're going to see any decrease in the next few months of cases. I think that we're set up to continue to increase cases at least through January, and even then it'll take a couple months to go back to normal. So I don't think, given that we're in this middle of the third wave, and this third wave is going to continue increasing until January, it's unlikely to say that we'll be out of that wave until March. And so I don't think that I don't think it's realistic to talk about a half quarter measure. I think we should really talk about quarter three as a whole and plan for it to be remote. Of course, we should be guided by the data. And so if the data says something other than what I just said, we should go with the data. But my understanding of the data says that I think that's most likely. The anecdote I wanted to share, as I've mentioned a couple times before, one of my close friends is a teacher in the East Valley, and their district did go all the way back, and so he is teaching in-person classes there. And so yesterday we were playing video games. I was chatting with him online, and his school alone had gotten 3 staff members that had been tested positive, and 1 student tested positive that day. And then later in the evening, it was another one staff member and 2 students. And so that's 6 or 7 people in a single day at a single campus in an area that was red. Their district's not closing the school. But I think the reality is that if we bring people back anytime soon, we're setting ourselves up for similar situations in which we have multiple people testing positive in a single day. And I don't know that that's a realistic way to run a school and keep our students safe, keep our teachers safe, keep our parents safe. In terms of the hybrid model, personally, it's something like Model B makes the most sense to me. Of course, we should talk to our teachers and talk to our admin team and make sure that we make the decision that makes the most sense. But something like Model B makes the most sense to me, just based on my experiences and talking to other folks in the community. So, thank you.
Thank you, Board Member Prescott.
Thank you. Members, other questions for Dr. Guestin or Ms. Andrade or Ms. Gales? Dr. Guestin, yes, please, Supervisor, go ahead.
Thank you. Not so much a question. I do want to thank them for the presentation and the work they have done. And I just want to kind of make a comment more for the general public, I guess. And we understand, and I think all of us understand and have heard from parents and students and some staff members. You know, everyone wants to kind of go back to some type of normalism, and we get it. There's a little level of fatigue here. People are tired of hearing about COVID. They're tired of not being able to do a lot of the things we all love to do. But I think there's a level of patience, and it's I guess a time where we kind of have to all pull together. Every morning on my day job, we have an 8:30 phone call, and I think I brought this up before, but I want to kind of repeat it because it's so important. But every morning at 8:30, we have a phone call with the county health department. We have the doctors there. We have all the Office of Emergency Management, the supervisor. Everyone is on this call. And that is when the numbers are kind of given out. And just right before they're made public, they're given out to everyone. Anything from hospitalization rate, ICU rate, the number of new COVID cases from the day before, the number of deaths that we got from the day before. We have our level of bodies that are in our county morgue, our medical examiner's office, and it's just an eye opener of what this horrible pandemic has done, not only to our school district, our state, but our country, this entire world. Everyone is having to deal with it, and for those families and parents and students that just want to get back, and they're wanting to just get back to some normalism. And I hear them. I think we all hear them. We understand, but we just got to be a little bit more patient. There's light at the end of the tunnel, and for those that perhaps may not feel as threatened by the virus, I invite them to come with me to the county. And as I drive into the garage of our county, there's these white trailers that are sitting there, and they're coolers, and the coolers hold anywhere from 14 to 18 bodies, and there are overflow. There's around 8 of them that are sitting there, and anytime our hospital morgues are filled to capacity, when our mortuaries are filled to capacity, our medical examiner can hold up to 200 human beings. And when that's filled capacity, then they go, unfortunately, to the garage. They're out of sight. No one gets to see them unless you go into a certain way into our garage. You'll get to see them. That's how serious this is. We really got to really stay focused here. We understand that students and parents want to get back in their classroom. We all do. We all want to get back to some type of normalism. I commend the city of Phoenix for doing what they could. I hope all our cities kind of follow that lead and that leadership. But we just have to be a little bit more patient. We need to listen to the medical doctors, look at the data, and just be just be a little bit patient here. We'll get to some normalism. We will. But we're all in this together. We know that the decisions we make in December is going to impact what happens in February and March. We know that. The decisions that we made in October and September, we're feeling that impact right now in December. That's how long it takes. So with that, Madam President, I don't want to be on a soapbox forever, but I think it's just so critical to let the public know we hear them. We know we want to get back into the classroom, but we just got to be a little patient, and we will get there. As a family here in Phoenix Union, we want to do everything we can, I know, to make sure our students have the best quality education. We want to make sure our staff, our teachers, our classified, certified, everyone is safe. But public health has to be just the #1 priority. And eventually we'll all get there. We might not be able to get there through the third quarter, but we will get back into the classroom. And there's a vaccine right around the horizon. We're going to get there. We just have to be a little bit more patient. Let's just hunker down for a few more weeks, and we'll definitely get back to where we all want to be, and let's get back to a normal way of living. So with that, Madam President, I'm sorry for being on my soapbox. I'm just so passionate about this issue because I hear it every morning. So thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Supervisor. Really appreciate your perspective and insight, certainly. Dr. Guestin, I did have a couple of quick questions for you. One, to the point that Supervisor just made around, like, the vaccine is potentially around, coming around the corner. What does that plan look like for Phoenix Union, and how are we thinking about, potentially leveraging our schools? Governor just announced that he wants to prioritize educators to have access to the vaccine as in the early stage. So how are we thinking about that for implementation on our end?
Yeah, President Parra and board and members of the community. So yeah, we are, as you heard, Supervisor Gallardo, but also the governor, that the vaccine is fast approaching, and actually will be here much sooner than originally anticipated. And educators are going to be in that first group here in our state, and it will be free. And Phoenix Union already is a COVID testing site, but we will also turn our campuses into COVID vaccine sites. And we are in our conversations right now, as Supervisor Gallardo knows, and others, that I do serve on the county's superintendent advisory for all decisions related to COVID, including vaccine distribution. And so Phoenix Union will be a leader in making sure that that is highly accessible to our staff, to our students and families. We don't have all the details yet, certainly, but Phoenix Union is on the front lines of bringing that vaccine to us as safely as possible, but also giving access to those who need it.
Thank you so much, Dr. Guestin. And then my other question is around, like, as we are building out our plans, I think you have access to a lot of tools and resources, given the national network that you're a part of through Chiefs for Change, Broad. How are we being a leader in our local community and continuing to share resources, create a community of learning and support with our partner districts, neighboring systems? As Member Prescott mentioned, there are a lot of systems around us who have gone, are kind of going back and forth, in person, back into virtual, and that, has caused a lot of tension in communities, and certainly is a struggle for parents and families, the back and forth. I hear that a lot on social media, get a lot of comments and messages from folks. So just wanted to get your thoughts to share with the board and with community tonight, like how are we creating a community of learning for our neighboring systems and providing support when possible?
For sure. President Parra, members of the board and community, a couple of reactions to that. First of all, we are very fortunate to be a part of a couple of national networks, and so we have access to a lot more resources than are typically given here in Arizona. And so we definitely know that we're privileged to get that information. We also take responsibility to share it as well. And we have actually gotten permission from Chiefs for Change in Broad when we attend webinars and seminars and bring consultants to town virtually, that we can share that information with our partner and sister districts. And so every time we engage in a training, get a new PowerPoint, get new resources, We do share those with partner and sister districts. We are now in month 9 of weekly convenings with all superintendents in Phoenix. I have taken the lead on that for the last 9 months. Every Monday, I convene all superintendents in Phoenix, talk about safety in campuses and schools and communities. And as you've seen, if we talk about Phoenix Union and our footprint and the 13 partner districts, I think together we've made some very wise decisions about public health and public safety. And yet at the same time, we also aren't abandoning our students and our families and are providing needed services even if we're virtual. And we'll continue to do that, continue to provide many workshops and sessions. And I do want to thank our executive team as well, that often when we share resources, our partner districts ask for more, leads to more questions. And many of our chiefs and executive directors have agreed to sit with partner districts and share resources. And even down to transportation and food services, we still, when needed, convene transportation directors and food service directors across the city. And Phoenix Union, I'm very proud of our team, is leading today, I would argue, more than ever because of and through this pandemic. And, are doing our best. I can also share this, that we also talk about instructional delivery model. You heard that tonight. I cannot underscore enough that there is no perfect model. As we are a part of these national networks, we have a chance to convene. I was in a meeting yesterday with the 60 largest superintendents in our nation, and no one feels like they're doing this well. And there's not an ideal model. And so as we finalize models next week, I do think it's important to understand if we go with model A or B, that will be celebrated by some, criticized by others, but will lead with the same set of values. And that is that we will prioritize health, safety, and wellness and do all we can to meet the needs of our kids, even if it's challenging. And hopefully that answered your question, President Parra.
Thank you so much, Dr. Giston. Very helpful. Members, any other comments, questions on this item? Okay, the next. Yes.
This is Leela.
Yes, Senator.
Yeah, one of the things I'd like for us to look into, and I may be premature in asking this question, but when we get the vaccine for our teachers and our students, can we also become a vaccination site for our families? And I think that's something that we will want to do, particularly in Phoenix Union, so that we have, if our kids are vaccinated, they won't be taking it home to the families and vice versa. So I think if at all we can be the test site, if you will, for doing complete vaccinations of our entire school community, that would be a really important thing to consider. Thank you.
President Parra and Senator Alston, a couple of responses to that. First of all, we have made it very well known to the governor and to county that, again, we want to take the lead in getting vaccine to our community as fast as possible. And so if we are given the opportunity to get it to our community faster, we will. I can tell you that one challenge that we'll have is that the accessibility to the vaccine will be given out in stages, and healthcare teachers and others will be first, and it will take a while, I believe, to get to the general public. There are different models, and I know our state hasn't formally finalized who's level 1, level 2, level 3. I know the county does have an idea, but when we can play a role in distributing it to our community, we will. But I do think that education will get it first before general public gets it, and I think that'll be a challenge. And I don't know if Supervisor has more insight into that, but I believe that's accurate for now.
You are right on the money there, Dr. G. I've seen part of the presentation. I have seen the presentation on how they plan on rolling it out. You are absolutely correct. There's going to be different phases. Healthcare workers, along with now teachers, according to the governor's executive order, will come first. But over time, we will actually see this vaccine made available to everyone. It might be April or the first part of the summer before it's out there publicly to everybody. But I really do believe that, and I agree with Senator Ellison, that Phoenix Union can really play a huge leadership role here. One of the concerns I have, and I had a conversation with former supervisor, Mary Rose Wilcock, who is now the chair woman for the healthcare district board, and we had a long conversation this morning. And I think Prescott, Stanford just brought it up too, that our communities, particularly in Phoenix Union, was hit the hardest in terms of cases. And we want to make sure that when the vaccine is rolled out, that our community is not forgotten, that we are right up in front as well. We want to make sure our community is protected like every other community does. So we want to make sure that, the low income communities are not at the very end of the tail there. We want to make sure we're right in the mix. So that's the challenge that we're going to all have as elected leaders, and we can all play a role. I think Phoenix Union can really play a major role in educating our parents and our public. There's a lot of misinformation out there. A lot of folks a little eerie because of how fast this vaccine is now becoming available. There was a thing on the news earlier today with it was pretty awesome with 3 former presidents, former President George Bush and former President Bill Clinton and former President Barack Obama all came out today, said they're going to be the first to be in line when it's available for the general public. And they're going to do it probably on television just to let folks know that it is safe. And that's kind of I think the role of providing information to the public, not only where to get it, but kind of kill or dismay or dismiss any type of false thinking about the vaccine. So I think Phoenix Union definitely can play a role. Dr. G, your role and your position there at the county to provide insight from a school district level is very valuable. And I think together we'll all make sure that our communities are not forgotten, and we'll be able to service our community as we always have done here in Phoenix, Arizona, particularly around this particular virus pandemic.
Thank you.
Councilwoman Pastor, go ahead.
I have a question regarding the vaccine. I know that the governor stated that teachers were considered essential workers. My understanding, and I could be completely wrong, but my understanding is the first rollout is only 165,000 or 160,000 I don't know what you call them, vaccines that we will receive at this moment. So if you 160,000, and I'm not really sure because I haven't seen the rollout, but essential workers include not only the healthcare workers, but the police and fire and now teachers. 165,000 across the state is not enough for the first phase. So it's going to be very interesting on how we're going to get our hands on the vaccine. I also believe that then the rollout will increase as it gets approved, very similar to what happened to the testing. It started off slow, and then all of a sudden now we're at a point where there is more availability of tests, but it's still limited because the federal government is controlling how many tests people are getting because they don't want it to be stockpiled. So this will be the faster, the better, and the sooner, the better. But I think we just need to have realize we're not going to be able to vaccinate all the essential workers that fast.
Yeah, Councilwoman, President Parr, Councilwoman, you're right. The initial quantity worries us. I don't think we'll have enough to do all healthcare workers and educators immediately. Of course, more quantities will come in And I also think it's really important to note that I know that Governor spent a lot of time talking about teachers, but we can't reopen schools if it's not all educators. It will not do any good if every teacher in Arizona is vaccinated, but no bus drivers and no food service workers and no security staff and no office staff. And so this is not just about vaccinating teachers, but all educators so that we can bring students back. So it's going to be a heavy lift for sure.
So I think we probably should correct or have a correction in the future of all employees of the school districts or that operate schools need to be vaccinated.
Absolutely. And
we're classified and are certified.
Yeah, we're working on that too. I think I saw Supervisor Geyer. Oh, President Parr, I'll leave that up to you, but I think I saw Supervisor on mic.
Yeah, please, Supervisor, go ahead.
Yeah, no, Councilwoman is totally correct. I think the expected number of vaccines that are going to be made available to Maricopa County, the state of Arizona is getting our allotment. Considering it's not just the United States, it's the entire world. So, but Arizona will be getting our allotment. It will be distributed to all 15 counties. The 15 counties, health departments will go ahead and move forward with getting folks vaccinated. We're anticipating 100,000 in Maricopa County. There are phases. Healthcare workers are there. I think it's estimated anywhere from 123,000 to 300,000 healthcare workers. So do the math. But again, this is where we just really have to be patient. I mean, this is the Pfizer vaccine alone. There's another one that is coming down the pipe that should probably be available as well. So it's something that everyone will have an opportunity to get the vaccine. We just have to be patient. There's phases, but it's just one of those things where we all have to be patient. We all have to kind of continue to wear our mask and social distance and just keep our families safe. We're all in this together. It's kind of the message I've been giving to the public is we're all in this together. There's light at the end of the tunnel. And before you know it, I believe come summertime, you're going to start seeing some normalism. And but we just have to be a little patient. So you are absolutely correct, Councilwoman, that it's going to be slow, but we will all get there.
Good night, President Parra.
Yes, Member Prescott.
Thank you. Couple clarifying questions, which we may or may not be able to answer. So one, we were just talking about the teachers versus all of our education staff, including our ESPs and other staff. For this initial phase one that the governor is currently talking about, is he only talking about teachers, or is he also including other certified employees or other classified administrators? Are they currently covered in that phase one allocation, even knowing that there's that limitation?
Yeah, so President Parra and Board Member Prescott, right now the governor really came out and said teachers. But I can tell you in my conversations with his staff after that announcement, there will be flexibility. He and his staff know very well that it's impossible to reopen schools without vaccinating all educators. So yes, it says teachers, but I do know there's an openness to changing that.
And then my second question, we had some numbers mentioned in terms of this phase one and about how many for Arizona and how many for Maricopa County. Do we have any idea of beyond that initial batch, how soon and when? Are there any numbers that we can share with the public on that?
So President Parra, members of the board and community, actually, I do not know. What I do know is that states are going to get them in large batches. We just know about our first batch, but I have not been given, I've asked that very question, have not been given any specifics on what the size of the second batch, and I don't know if Supervisor knows, but I don't, yeah, at this point, no idea how big the second batch will be.
They are, at least what I've been told, they're hoping it'd be around 1 million, I think. I could be wrong. Everyone, I think they got kind of a game plan, and they've been working really hard. I give kudos to the county health, and it's not just Maricopa County, it's all 15 county health departments have been working real hard, along with the Arizona Department of Health Services. But it's kind of, we'll just have to wait and see. But they kind of have a general idea of what we'll get the first phase. And then I think they're looking at maybe 5 or 6 different phases until we get to the general public.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Thank you. Member Ross?
So originally when we were discussing the options for returning to school, the vaccination was not mentioned. And then so we spent the last 10 minutes talking about that. And so my question is to Dr. Geston. It was not stated, but I just want to clarify. The vaccination is not, returning to school is not dependent on the vaccination, correct? Like those are 2 separate things. So we're not saying you can't return to school unless you've been vaccinated. Is that correct?
Yeah. President Para and Board Member Ross, no, the vaccination will certainly be helpful, but that is not the indicator of when we bring back some form of in-person or hybrid learning. The spread of COVID will dictate when we come back. Again, our first phase of in-person learning will very likely be hybrid, smaller numbers. I think long-term vaccination will help us bring back all. But no, that is not the determining factor of when to bring back students.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Members, I don't see any additional questions or comments. So I'm gonna move us on our agenda to our next item, item 7B. Listening to Black student voices, perspectives, reflections, and experiences presented by Ms. Michelle Gales, our Chief Strategy Officer, but I will introduce Dr. Geston first.
President Para and members of the board do recognize that tonight we are grappling with a couple of really heavy yet very important topics. So I appreciate everybody's patience as we brought to you that previous presentation and discussion, but also this one tonight. We thought it was extremely important for us to, before we got into the year 2021, to make sure that we kept on the forefront and on the radar the fact that our nation has grappled with and is grappling with what we have said is 2 pandemics. And I share this slide because this is a slide that we've used in the past at convocations. We launched the school year. And I do think in some ways this was a great way to describe the sentiment in our nation over the summer. But I also know that there's a couple of problems with this idea of 2 pandemics. One, as we heard tonight, a vaccine is coming, and we soon will, and not sure exactly how long it's going to take, but we'll soon be able to manage one vaccine, one pandemic. But the reality is this other pandemic, the issue of racism and discrimination, oppression in our nation, is not going to be solved by a vaccine. And has been around for many generations. And if institutions and individuals and leaders and community members don't play a very strong intentional role, the racism pandemic, so to speak, will continue for generations. And so Phoenix Union is a district that has proudly and boldly said that we are an anti-racist institution and will take all steps necessary to not only identify and root out racism and systems of oppression in our own system, but also take a lead in making sure that other institutions, school districts, leaders, organizations do the same. We're proud of that stance and will continue to take a lead in that area. And we've done a lot over the past several years and are doing a lot today and will continue to do much in the future. But one way in which we will continue to identify and uproot issues of racism in our own system and in our community is to listen and raise up voices that typically aren't heard. And one way in which we're doing that is we are committed as a school district. We've made this commitment in the summer that we would host focus groups and listening sessions with our African-American students, staff, and families to make sure that we understand the experiences and the voices of our Black students and community. We think this is vitally important. We also know it's a bold step, for this district, and it's also going to be tough to hear what our community says. And issues of racism and discrimination run deep in our community. And tonight you're going to hear from Ms. Gales about student voices that have been heard in Phoenix Union through a series of focus groups. You'll hear that. And I'll just warn the board and the general community that, sometimes it's really challenging to hear the truth. But we're going to seek the truth, and we're going to share the truth, and then we're going to create action plans to address the truth. And so as you hear students' perspectives tonight, you're going to hear some students say they feel safe and loved, and others say that that's not true for them. You're going to hear students say that they love their teachers and their staff and the faculty that pour into them and provide safe places. And you're also going to hear the reality that in a system of 4,000 educators, that we have racism in our hallways and in our classrooms and sometimes from our staff members. And we're going to not shy away from the reality of the experiences of our students. And as a district, we believe that an important next step, not just grappling with curriculum and pedagogy and equity framework and all the work that we have to do, but that's got to be grounded in what our community is telling us. And so tonight, we start with Ms. Michelle Gales for an overview of what our students have shared with us. Ms. Gales.
Thank you, Dr. Guestin. Good evening, President Parra, Governing Board, Dr. Guestin, and community. Tonight, I will be presenting to you perspectives, reflections, and experiences of Black students in Phoenix Union High School District. Next slide. It is an honor to present this evening on behalf of our Black students, our teachers, staff, and administrators who facilitated discussions on every campus, as well as for all of the champions who have supported our students these past years. In Phoenix Union, we are committed to doing all that we can to embrace and celebrate the individuality and uniqueness of our students in every way. We seek to hear the voices of all of our students so that we might better meet their needs. Next slide. And while that is true, it is also true that at times it is possible and probable that unique student voices go unheard because of assumptions made or because small numbers may not be as pronounced. Tonight's presentation is important because of all the brilliant young men and women that you see up on the screen. Next slide. And because that still in 2020, they are impacted every day by racism targeted towards Black people. So tonight I bring you their voice, the fear, the pain, the hope, and wisdom. Next slide. Before I share the voices of our students, allow me to share some insight into our listening sessions. We had listening sessions on every campus over a several-month period of time. We invited all Black students to contribute their voice. We had an amazing team of campus facilitators who I have to say thank you to, because they collaborated in preparing for those student conversations. They talked about questions and how they could support their students during that conversation and after, so I thank them. All the principals that participated. We had approximately anywhere from 5 to 25 students for every campus participate in the focus group. What's important to know is that we had to create a safe space for students. Talking about racism is not easy. Not even when you're having a focus group with all Black students. There was pause and uncertainty about how honest can I be. And so that group of amazing facilitators built the space for the quotes and the information that you're going to see this evening, that those students felt safe to do so. And also important, we were very clear that we needed follow-up actions as a result of these conversations. Next slide. We asked tough questions that led to courageous conversations. Questions like, when I watch the news or listen to conversations about racism and Black Lives Matter, I hear. Next slide. And questions like, the hardest thing about being a Black student at this school is, or I feel most supported as a Black student on this campus when. Next slide. The very first question that we asked was a general check-in of how students were doing the past 6 months. It became abundantly clear that in addition to navigating emotions related to racism on a national level, that they were also dealing with now being isolated at home, doing their best to keep up with online learning and managing the many responsibilities at home as a result of COVID-19. Next slide. We then move to the question, how are you feeling? What are you hearing? What are you experiencing related to recent events of racism targeted towards Black people nationally and globally? And what you see here on the screen is the common themes that emerged from all of the focus groups across all of our campuses. Our students said they are feeling fear and anxiousness for Black lives, including their own, anger and outrage, disappointment and disbelief that racism is still a thing, continued injustice towards Black people and the denial of it, the misjudgment and mistreatment just based on the color of their skin. And all campuses talked about the constant negative perceptions of Black people. Next slide. Our students talked about it's still 2020 and we're still fighting. People push it off. Every time we overcome something, they're like, okay, we're done with you now. And they also talked about the very real fact that aggression comes from generations of hurt and harm. They grappled with the positive message of Black Lives Matter being more divisive now, and that a lot of people that are supposed to be in power are actually the ones committing crimes against Black people. Our students talked about the death of George Floyd, and they were really saddened by the willful ignorance is more common than I thought. And this quote breaks my heart. We know we're Black. We know nobody cares about us. What resounded most across all of our campuses and our conversations was this notion that I could be next. I could be next to experience violence or harm for no other reason than the color of my skin. They talked about the impact of these deaths on the families and how they were impacted. And they talked about how many people have died. During that conversation, which was extremely heavy on every campus, listening to those negative experiences and fears of our students, there still was a glimmer of hope. Our students talked about increased awareness, voice, and action around issues of racism. They talked about being excited about the frequent and public conversations to address it. And they talked about the importance of witnessing the courage of people. Next slide. They said, I am glad that it's becoming more visible. I am proud of people. I am proud that they know how to use their voice. I'm happy this subject is finally being told and exposed in modern day America. And they even talked about the fact that they weren't aware how much injustice was happening within the Black community. And now I am a lot more educated and learning every day. We then asked our students about their experiences as Black people in Arizona. And three major themes emerged: concerns of safety and well-being in the community, lack of Black culture, and their voices not being heard due to the smaller numbers. Adjusting to the lack of culture was a common hurdle for our students. They were actually happy to see all the Black students in the focus groups that participated. They also said because we are a smaller number, our concerns are not made a priority. The N-word came up. One of the hardest things is hearing the N-word being thrown around so freely by someone that is not African American, and having to deal with stereotypes of how Black people act, and trying my hardest not to prove them wrong. The one on this slide that makes me the saddest is trying to make myself small and invisible as a tall Black man. I can only imagine the pain of that young man, and why should he have to go through that at such a young age? Our students talked about the fear for their life and that they actually changed some of their habits because they wanted to feel safe. Next slide. After talking about the state, we asked them to talk about their experiences at the campus level and their challenges as a Black student. The common themes that emerged across all of our campuses was not having enough Black teachers, staff, and students to connect to, people who understand their experiences. They really grappled with not having enough information and learning related to the positive contributions of Black people in the world, even though they know that exists. The N-word came up again. They talked about having few experiences that are geared towards them and that their voices are not sought out enough, or maybe they're not heard because of the smaller numbers. And yes, they absolutely talked about dealing with racism and stereotypes on a regular basis. Finding Black teachers to connect with was difficult. They said being one of the few students in, pick your choice, an AP class, an honors class, STUGO, or any activity on campus. They talked about fitting in and that there's not a lot of people that can relate to my problems. We have some amazing staff, and yet our students also experience some challenges in the classroom. They said that there are some teachers that can be racist and they don't even know it. Some act like they care, but they don't really, and it really breaks my heart. Not enough people are approaching us around our needs. Not enough things are tailored towards us, like panels and assemblies that are not tied to Black student unions. And they really talked about going back and forth about Black Lives Matter in comparison to deportation. Wish our peers would not try to compare or group the struggles together. And then finally, a common theme, again, is the N-word. The groups across all campuses struggled and grappled with the use of the N-word. The N-word just within the Black student population itself, which is a debate back and forth, but unanimously, they talked about the challenge of white, Asian, Hispanic kids thinks it's okay to say the N-word, and they don't know where it came from. It offends me so much. They talked about their schools being identified as ghetto or hood. And so doesn't that mean that they're ghetto or hood as well? They really struggled with that. Next slide. So as the adults listened, we thought it important after we listened to all the challenges that our students have at a national, at a state, and at a campus level, we wanted to understand what we could do to best support them. So we began to ask them, what are your best experiences? Where do you feel most supported? So we can figure out what to scale up. They went to supportive teachers and staff and connections to Black students. They talked about engaging in Black student unions and clubs and sports and being able to share their experiences and being heard. Next slide. When we are acknowledged for the good stuff, being something makes me feel so important. In Mr. Lopez's class, he makes sure all backgrounds are included and talked about. Our kids love to be engaged. At Phoenix Union, we know the importance of connection, and they talked about BSU assemblies and choir and visiting HBCU campuses, JROTC. They want to be engaged just like all other students. And yes, they talked about the amazing staff that we have on campus that they can connect to. I was blessed with the best teachers with few exceptions. I always knew I could count on my counselors or my teachers when needed. When I'm around Black peers and teachers, we can just relate on a different level. So I have to take a moment to say thank you to our staff and specifically to our Black teachers, our staff, and our administrators who go out of their way to make those connections with Black students because they have asked for it and you show up every day for them. Next slide. We then asked, is there something that you need from school? How can we best support you? They said, be willing to talk about issues of racism and stop avoiding it. We want to be acknowledged and heard, learn more about our people in society. And we really want to work together to address the issues, adults and students and all ethnicities. Next slide. They said, we want to work together, work with us to prove people wrong. Why should they have to ask people to help them prove people wrong? They said, stand together, stand strong, we don't bite. I feel most supported as a Black student when we unite as one. And they said, talk about what is going on more. To address racism, we should continue to have focus groups and clubs that help to provide safe spaces. Next slide. They talked about the importance of curriculum in so many ways, in so many conversations on every campus. I wish teachers talk more about Black history. A lot of them shy away from the topic and don't feel right when talking about it. You are teachers, and for you to acknowledge us, Black students, and understand our struggles in society means a lot. I wish our teachers would teach Black history and more inclusive curriculum. Curriculum kept coming up. And then they said, we want more tailored towards us, and we don't want BSU to be the only ones taking care of it. In addition to curriculum, they ask adults to help them to address issues around perception. Perceptions of students as thugs. They said they know that people fear them when they see them without even knowing them. Welcome people with an open mindset. Don't focus on the bad things, think of the good things. They also talked about school cares. One student said, when I told my parents that they were going to participate in this focus group, they were surprised that they were actually paying attention, and it gave them hope. They loved the school and they felt growth and they loved the experience. And many of our students express that they want to return back to school. Next slide. So we asked our students of their wisdom. We know adults have wisdom, but our students have wisdom. And then we asked them, what is it that you want to share with adults to help them understand? They said, first of all, we as the Black community have to keep speaking about things we have to deal with and educating the world until we are taken for real and voices are heard. We are smart and have skills and abilities. Be given an opportunity. We are young, but we have experienced things too, and we do understand what it is and how wrong it is. We want to be treated equally. And this age-old quote that we all hear, don't judge a book by its cover. If they only understood what I'm going through. My favorite, adults are hard-headed and need to listen to students more about things they have experienced. One student described her thinking of how she saw people. I believe we are like a garden. We are all flowers with just very distinct and different in our own way. We need to be more understanding and stop coming out of a place of anger. Next slide. This quote at the top of the screen is from one of our students. What's the next step? I'm tired of just talking. And so you've heard a lot of information from our students about the stresses, the challenges, the experiences, and what they need from us. And so we as a district have a responsibility to respond. And so our next steps in listening to and acting upon the voices of our students is to make sure that we have an action planning time where we digest all of this information, and together with our facilitators, our students, our leaders, and the additional champions who have been working all along the way to respond to the request for support. That we continue to focus on culturally relevant pedagogy and instruction informed by Black student voices. That we have a commitment to recruiting and retaining diverse teachers, staff, and administrators. And that we focus on culture and climate with intentionality around bias and relationship. And we know that a critical next step is our listening sessions with our Black staff and parents, which we are in the process of planning. Next slide. So you have heard from me to give an overview of the voices of students on every single one of our campuses. But I would love for you to hear from one of the facilitators of those groups to talk about her experience in listening to and engaging in conversations with her students. And that's Ms. Shakira Simmons, our principal at Maryvale High School. Ms. Simmons.
Thank you, Michelle. Good evening, President Parra, governing board members, Superintendent Gadsden, and community. Thank you for the opportunity to share the experience that I had as facilitator for our focus groups. The conversations shared by our students were very raw at times and very emotionally heavy. As a site administrator, it was very tough to hear about some of the experiences that students had had on campus. But even through that, the conversations were very much weighted in hope. Students weren't quite sure what to expect from participating in the focus group experiences. But as each session progressed and students felt that the space created was safe and open and that they were not being judged, they were able to be vulnerable and they were really able to release and share their hurt, their frustration, and their fears, and to go over the concerns that they carry as a student as well as operating in their own community. The students provided feedback about wanting to have a voice and feel valued, whether it be on the campus or in the community, but they also shared the concern about having opportunities to see and participate in courses that reflect their history and culture, and to feel that it is valuable within their own learning space. And as heartbreaking as it was to hear the fear and frustration that our students carry on a daily basis about themselves and for their family members, the students were so appreciative after each session for the safe space created, along with the ability to interact with peers and feel like there was a connection in relation to the feelings that they felt and that they weren't alone. These opportunities are extremely important to our students and creating these continued safe spaces for them to voice their truths and to take steps to act. It confirms that we have a lot of continued work that we need to engage in, but I'm happy that we've started the process. Embedded in all of that, I have to acknowledge that embedding and working and work to this nature with our students that are extremely heavy, it does take a lot of planning and thoughtfulness. So I do want to acknowledge the work of Ms. Gales and our support services team and being thoughtful about the process and the questions and the supports that would be needed for the facilitators. We had a couple meetings and sessions to really review and vet some of the questions and to discuss some of the key things to consider that may be unique to each of the school sites. And I think it's that type of continued work in reference to working together that will help to continue to support our students on campus. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Simmons. I really appreciate you joining us this evening. In conclusion, I'd like to talk about the last question that we asked our students, which was what they love to celebrate about being Black. My culture, brilliance, and beauty. I think our culture is the biggest one. A lot of things that we use on a daily basis was created by a Black man or woman. My hair is for real my crown, and I just love it and how unique it is. Our diverse culture and how far we have come given our history and stereotype. And my favorite, we are gifted, strong, intelligent, beautiful, even when it's really hard. You have heard Dr. Guestin say that the future of Black Arizona flows through Phoenix Union and the Black students and families we serve every day. Our students have spoken clearly about what they need. It is our charge to turn their feedback into action. Their true success depends on it. Thank you. I am now open for any questions that you might have.
Members, do we have questions? Was that Member Ross?
Yes.
Yes, Member Ross, please.
I don't have a question. I have more of a statement. Thank you for this presentation. Out of everything we covered tonight, this is what made me the most emotional. And the reason it did is because, unfortunately, the experiences that they shared are not isolated to being a teenager or a young adult. I, as a full-fledged adult, have these same feelings. I remember when I was sharing with Dr. Guestin, when I was the first one and the only one to vote no for renewing our contract with SROs, I said I could be next, and I was fighting back tears at that time. And so it's very sad to hear that it's generations under me or a generation under me are experiencing these same emotions and feelings and experiences. And so it's just very, very sad. And I will, of course, as I always have, do everything I can to ensure that we are trying to improve the environment, the culture for our Black students, and that means no cops, and other measures and curriculum. So thank you for highlighting this.
Member Ross, board members, other questions or comments for Ms. Gales or Dr. Guestin?
President Parra?
I'll go supervisor and then member Prescott.
Sure, thank you. Madam President, just a quick question to our presenter. Great presentation. It's always good to be able to have our students come and have these types of discussions. These are the discussions that may make people feel uncomfortable, and that's okay. These are the discussions you got to have, and we got to be able to have these dialogues, and it's always good to have our students. But I'd be curious to know kind of next steps. I would hope that this is like a discussion we continue to have moving on. So has there been any thoughts of, it looks like they had a great discussions with students, but has there been thoughts of what would be next steps in continuing this type of dialogue?
Absolutely, Board Member Gallardo. We are actually, our facilitators have met after all of the focus groups have been concluded. And so a common request from most of the campuses were the students wanted to continue to get together and discuss the things that they were facing, but also what would be actionable items. As you can imagine, based on the content, you don't necessarily get through all of that in one session. And so we have some immediate next steps around continuing to gather groups, but the next steps for a campus level continues to evolve as each of those principals and campus teams continue to bring students together. The other thing is that we have really just compiled all of this information and looked for the common themes. And so when principals engaged early on, they knew immediately that whatever things that they could do on their campus in their wheelhouse was something that they wanted to take immediate action on. So you absolutely have principals that are already moving on, ramping up activities within their Black Student Union, or creating some more events, or creating safe spaces for numerous students to come in and talk about race and racism. They've been talking about what does it look like for professional development. So those things that they can take immediate action on at a campus level, many of our principals are finding ways to do that. And then this group of facilitators, as well as district leaders, campus leaders, are really dissecting now all the data that we just presented to you to say what actionable are we going to work on. We mentioned a few of those things in that last slide, and that we heard curriculum loud and clear. And so we have work on that. We need to make sure that we include the Black voices in developing that curriculum. We heard loud and clear around staffing and the importance of diverse staffing. And so while we have a commitment to that, we have to dig deeper and figure out what more we can do. So we have some things that we're working on, and this will absolutely influence it by engaging in Black student voice. But we also will be coming up with more items as we look at all the common themes.
And it's just, Madam President, just a great presentation. I'm so happy to see the work that's being done, to be able to bring students together and celebrate our culture here in not only in Arizona, but across the country. It'd be nice to, I would imagine there's other student organizations in other schools and other states. I know growing up, I went to Trevor Brown High School, and I can tell you the demographics of Trevor Brown are definitely different than they are now. I mean, back when I went in the 80s, I think the minority population maybe had been at 20%, and that includes, Black and brown students. It was a very small population, but we had, at that time, we had an organization. I think the organization still exists in many of the campuses, a Metro Club organization, allowed the students to come together and share stories and talk and celebrate cultural celebrations. And it was a good outlet, and it really helped develop leadership. I know Councilwoman Pastor and I grew up in that era where we were all Metro students, and we were able to really not only empower ourselves to be what we're now, elected leaders, but it really allows us to empower our students, and empowers and allows us to develop this type of leadership and really start to break down barriers, not only on campuses, but in our community as well. So I applaud the work and would hope that the students stay together and continue to have this dialogue, continue to tell their stories, and good things happen. Good things happen. I think we're all in the same boat. We want to change what's going on, not only in our police departments, but in our communities. But we do that by having these types of discussions, meaningful discussions, and really empowering each other. So kudos to the students, and kudos to our staff here for working with our students to create this type of environment and dialogue. So thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Supervisor. Member Prescott.
Thank you. I just want to say, first off, a big thank you to Ms. Gales, as well as everybody else who worked on this. I think this was very important and essential work, and it sounds like it went I think that it was great that we were able to get all of this feedback, both the positive feedback as well as the negative feedback. We have a lot of work to still do, but I think that it's a really positive step that we're doing the work. And I believe that this work is going to be the most important thing that our district can work on. COVID eventually will end, hopefully. but as Dr. Getson said, this will be an issue that we'll need to continue to work on beyond that. And so I am glad that these focus groups happened, and I am glad to see that we're continuing to take additional steps.
Thank you so much. Dr. Geston, just briefly, and I know Michelle mentioned it, but just if you could share a little more about how we also plan to lift up certainly our Black staff voices in this, as they can also be obviously a minority population of our employees, and how are we lifting up their voices in the next phase of our work as well.
Yeah, President Para and members of the board, we, as you did hear from Ms. Gales, we do plan to host similar listening sessions with staff as well as parents. The reason why we did students first and not staff is you can imagine creating a safe space for staff members to talk about their experiences, especially when they may talk about their own employer or their own institution. That's not an easy space. And so although, as you heard from Ms. Gales, we had our own staff facilitate our student focus groups, we actually have an outside facilitator that will do our staff focus groups. And so those are coming. Want to lift up voices of certified ESPs, even administrators over the course of their time. And so that is coming soon. But the reason why we did students first, one, always want to elevate student voice when we can, but two, wanted to create the safest space possible for staff. And we thought a neutral, confidential external facilitator would be the right next step.
Thank you so much, Dr. Geston. Members, any other questions or comments on this item? And I'm going to move us to the next item, item 9K, approval of sole source vendor, City of Phoenix for off-duty police officers. Dr. Geston.
President Para and members of the community, we're getting close to being done, so please bear with us. Just a couple more items. Tonight, we have an action item, approval of sole source vendor, City of Phoenix for off-duty officers. And just want to share a couple of thoughts before the board votes. The next slide, we want to just remind the board that we made an important announcement over the summer around school safety, that Phoenix Union would not re-sign an IGA for school resource officers and instead launch a $1.2 million participatory budgeting process to, and you see on the screen, to rethink school safety without SROs. That process continues. We'll give a report when we come back in 2021. But just a reminder that that process is about halfway done and are very excited about what will come of those processes, and we'll implement those winning ideas next year. We also did say, as a part of that announcement, that we would use off-duty officers this school year as and when needed. Because we're virtual, we haven't needed them, but as we plan for in-person learning and sports and activities, there will be some need for law enforcement support. And although originally we didn't think this would require any action on our part, as you see in that last comment, we've realized through very complex Arizona school district procurement law that absent an IGA, we do have to make the city of Phoenix an approved vendor, just like we do for any other procurement. And so that's why this is even an agenda item tonight. Just two things I want to remind the board, just two more slides on this. First, what would we use off-duty officers for? For one, as you are very well aware, because we talk about this often, we still our mandatory reporters must navigate issues according to statute, including child abuse and neglect and child crimes, of which we've had some even virtually. Those have to get reported. When we do so, we prefer to make sure that we are reporting those to officers that we know mirror our values. And then also for extracurricular activities, as we've mentioned as well, that sporting events, dances. We even have a graduation in a couple of weeks at Linda Abril that will require some traffic control. And so they're used for both school support and extracurricular activity. And then just put together one other quick slide for you, governing board, with what we know to be some of the most frequently asked questions. For one, why 600,000? The truth is, now that we don't think we will be in person, at least to start third quarter, very likely all third quarter, we won't even get close to this number. But as we approve up to 600,000, that just means that's the most we can spend. We expect to spend very, very much less than 600, maybe even less than 100,000, depending on what the future looks like for in-person learning and extracurricular activities. Another question we often get is which officers are selected. Miss Alyssa Tarkington and her team and myself, as you know, are in close contact with our city. And officers that have been identified are those that have already gone through the school safety officer training program. So officers that have been trained as SROs or SSOs. And then in particular in Phoenix Union, we know officers that have been our SROs in the past or have helped with off-duty. We have the list of known and trusted former PXU officers. And so those will be the officers that will be selected when and if needed. Another one that we get is, how many officers will we have on contract if and when we come back? To be really honest, we don't know when and if school comes back in person. We might have 0 one day. We might need 4 one day. We don't know that answer yet. But as we get closer, we'll be very clear with the board and the community how many officers we may need per day. And then in terms of extracurricular activities, we have standards depending on number of what traffic needs, number of people in an event, number of cars. And so there are standards that we follow for extracurricular activities. But again, minimal and only when needed. Another question that we've gotten asked is when we have off-duty officers, where will they be housed? First of all, our goal is not to have a bunch of off-duty officers housed somewhere doing nothing. We only want to use off-duty officers as and when needed. But if and when we have officers that are on contract for the day, but not at a site, our initial discussions is that they will be placed here at CEE or even at Franklin Police and Fire. And an opportunity maybe for our students planning and training to move into law enforcement and public safety. We'll have a chance to also interact there. And then ultimately, though, the goal is that our off-duty officers are deployed to campuses only when needed. This is not about placing officers on campuses. It's about using them when that comes up. And then just a couple more items for me to note, and then I'll turn it back to you, President Parra. One other question we get is what uniforms will off-duty officers wear? Believe it or not, over the last few months, there's been movement on this issue. And so off-duty officers that will come support Phoenix Union will actually not wear the typical police officer uniform and will wear a more dressed down uniform that does identify that they are law enforcement, but will look much like an off-duty officer. So we're excited that when we have a use for off-duty officers, that their uniform will look different. Question we always get was, how will we handle emergencies? The reality is, if we ever have that type of an emergency, even if we had an SRO, it's still going to be a 911 call, and we're still going to have to navigate all law enforcement. And so whether we have SROs or not, or off-duty officers or not, emergencies are emergencies, and that's 911 and communication with city leadership. And then finally, how would off-duty officers handle abuse and neglect and mandatory law enforcement notifications? And the answer is just as we always have, that if we have an incident on a campus that requires a mandatory law enforcement notification, mandatory reporting, an officer would go to the campus to handle that specific issue and would do so in the way in which we expect and have grown to expect here in Phoenix Union, which is our goal is, even when necessary, to handle law enforcement notifications, that it does not end up in arrest. And so that expectation would remain the same. And President Parra, again, I just wanted to provide board just some perspective on, again, why we need this item tonight and how off-duty officers would be used if we need them.
Thank you, Dr. Geston. Members, any questions? Or sorry, is there a motion to approve the sole source vendor City of Phoenix for off-duty officers? Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
A motion has been made by Senator Alston and seconded by Member Prescott. Is there any discussion? On the motion, those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed indicate by saying nay.
Nay.
Any abstentions?
I abstain.
All right. On the motion carries. The next item is item 11A, approval of the proposed calendar of the governing board meetings for 2021. Is there a motion to approve the proposed calendar for the governing board meetings for 2021?
Moved.
I heard a motion by Senator Alston. Is there a second?
Second.
A second by Member Prescott. Is there any discussion? On the motion, those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Those opposed indicate by saying nay. Any abstentions? The motion carries. The next item is item 11B, approval of revised governing board policy ACAA, Title IX, sexual harassment on first reading. Is there a motion to approve the revised governing board policy ACAA Title IX, sexual harassment on first reading?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
A motion has been made by Senator Alston and seconded by Member Prescott. Is there any discussion? On the motion, those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Those opposed indicate by saying nay. Any abstentions? The motion carries. The next item is for information only. This is not an action item. Item 11C, receipt of revised governing board policy regulations GBGBR, staff personal security and safety, JICARB, student dress, and KIRB, visitors to schools. This is an information only. I'm acknowledging receipt for the governing board. The next item is item 12A, our next regular meeting of the governing board, and our reorganizational meeting is scheduled for Thursday, January 7th, 2021 at 6 p.m. The meeting will be live streamed. And before we do a motion to adjourn, I just do want to give Member Danley if he's still on, just a final word to kind of close us out.
I'll be so brief. I know it's so late. Just a quick word of gratitude for all your kind words tonight, and giving me this send off. It was so kind, and the marketing team, the video, my kids already watched it like 5 times. So I'm just I got a full heart tonight, and I want to just say thank you to you all. What a ride it's been. The best is yet to come for Phoenix Union, and I can't wait to see what we're able to do into the future. Good night. Have a wonderful evening. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Danley. And before we do a motion to adjourn, I do want to wish everyone on behalf of the governing board a very safe. Please stay safe this holiday season. But do enjoy the time that you can get with your loved ones in a safe way. And so with that, having concluded our business, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
A motion to adjourn has been made by Senator Alston and seconded for the final time by Member Danley. On the motion, those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Those opposed indicate by saying nay. The motion carries. We are adjourned. Thank you so much, Member Danley. We'll miss you.
Love you, everybody. I'll miss you.
Congratulations.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye, everyone. See you soon.